Well, Image Entertainment.
Hi, I'm Adam Green, the writer and director of Anne Frankenstein.
Hi, I'm Joe Lynch, the writer and director of Zombie Movie and Deathication.
I'm Tim Sullivan, the writer and director of I Was a Teenage Werebear.
My name is Adam Rifkin, and I wrote and directed Wadzilla.
Periscope, pictures, props to Image, Mark Ward, who believed in this from the beginning, right, Mr. Green?
Yeah, this was, we're going to get into it in a little bit about how this whole thing came to be. But, actually, in fact, we should wait on that so that we can give props to Brian Collins.
Yes,
He's amazing,
Brian
Edward
Collins.
Gorey-esque, very Edward Gorey.
We wanted to kind of start the movie out with the right kind of tone, so Brian Collins actually constructed this whole animated sequence with some help from some local artists, including Alex Pardee, who gave us the gate and some of the gravestones, and Bear McCreary did the opening score for this as well.
Brian actually did the opening titles for Field of Screams. That guy is amazing. And there's our old pal Miles Dougal,
The great Miles Dougal.
who is in every Adam Rifkin's movie, right?
Yes.
That is true.
I wanted to kind of give, because I've been such a huge Adam Rifkin fan since The Dark Backward, so...
Adam's much older than you.
I didn't know
that's
Adam
true.
Rifkin did horror.
He doesn't.
You know?
The reason he's here, quite frankly, is because we kept going to these Masters of Horrors dinner and bringing him, and everybody kept saying, why is Adam here? So the entire reason he's a part of this movie is just so we could validate him coming to those dinners.
Just to clarify, I did direct 2 horror movies under my
Horrible, not horror.
under my nom de plume, Riff Coogan.
Oh, yeah, that's
did
true.
I actually like Riff Coogan more than Adam Rifkin.
The
I like
Invisible
Riff
Maniac
Coogan.
and Psycho Cop 2, which I made without having seen Psycho Cop 1.
Hey,
Is that a dude? Is that a dude in that makeup?
Yes, actually,
a
originally we had our one of our makeup effects artists, Crystal Edwards, who was going to do that part as well as doing the makeup. But since everyone wore about 17 hats on this shoot, she had to do makeup. So her husband actually jumped in and was the unfortunate Penelope Fitzhume, who was played here. Now, getting Floyd in this, getting Miles to play Floyd was a huge coup for me because, again, I had known Miles' work through all of Adam's work. It's kind of his De Niro. And I was like, who better than to kind of start this movie off than Miles Dougal? It just felt so right.
I was thrilled that somebody else gave him a job.
Well, he was in Field of Screams. See, I've
editor-
already plugged that twice now.
And
The editor-
Oh, whose balls are those?
The editor
those
was
are mine.
convinced that
Those
those
are
were
yours,
real
Joe?
balls.
No.
Ed Marks, the editor, was
they're not
convinced
real?
they were real.
They're rubber balls.
Rubber balls. Like, and the first appearance of demon semen.
Yes.
We should probably at this time talk about how this little movie came about.
But I just want to know, where was that exactly shot? Because we weren't all on each other's films sometimes. So was this shot on a set or?
No, actually, it was shot behind the drive-in. We shot at an actual drive-in down in City of Industry.
Holy
and
shit.
We shot this entire thing over the course of 2 nights. Jason Miller was one of the major components of helping us out getting this done. And this is all just a tiny little set with all green screen. And we just kind of put Miles in the back there and let him throw testicles against crosses.
I love that. It's a great way to start off. But it's so funny because this is actually the first time we are all seeing this movie in toto since Comic-Con, and we've all kind of trimmed it since then. So it's kind of seeing it for the first time. It's really good, Joe.
In
Not
fact,
too shabby.
in fact, this is the first time we're seeing it with the actual finished things in it, because at Comic-Con
Yeah.
it wasn't colored.
Yeah,
That's
there was
right.
a lot of things that weren't finished at this point. So the backgrounds weren't in, the black and white and the color was different. But we wanted to kind of start
It
things
reminds
off
me of the
very
opening of
B-movie.
Ed Wood. You know?
Exactly. That was the whole point. Was the whole credit sequence going into this. We wanted to make it look like for the color graders. We wanted to say it wanted to look like something right out of like a fresh print of Ed Wood. And then he walks across the street, and coincidentally enough, there happens to be a drive-in, which this shot here was designed to kind of take us from black and white into color.
Kansas to Oz.
Yeah, sort of like the shot of Dorothy exiting the house
Right.
and into the Munchkin land.
Oh,
The
Kaufman.
first
Now, who
time-
could that be a nod to,
The
Joe?
first time we saw that, Joe had sent us a picture of the actual Chillerama drive-in with our movie titles on it.
A little
That was-
nod to Blumps.
That was a big deal for all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
Blumps, that lady was my grandmother's face. Every movie I made since I made The Dark Backward has a Blumps product in it. Blumps is a fictitious company I created for
you're
the film
wearing a
The Dark
Blumps
Backward.
hat, aren't you? Why
I
don't you
am.
point to it for the audience at home?
That's right, there it is.
And the Kaufman drive-in, of course, was Joe's nod to
Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma, since he was mad that I didn't get to put him in my last 2 films. So I said, fine, well, now I'm going to name a drive-in after you. He was somewhat pleased, I guess.
Well, he's been sort of like a mentor to all of us. I honestly don't think this movie would exist if there wasn't people like Lloyd Kaufman and
Roger Corman.
Roger Corman, Forey, J. Ackerman, which
Yep.
is a really wonderful segue into the genesis of this project.
Absolutely, yep.
Adam, why don't you talk about that?
Well, the way it started for me and for you, Tim, Tim and I worked together on a movie called Detroit Rock City. I was the director of Detroit Rock City. Tim was one of the producers. We were in Toronto, and we didn't know each other too well, but when we started to learn that we both shared a love of old B movies, and a love of, I think it was Famous Monsters of
Famous
Filmland.
Monsters magazine, Mad Magazine,
all that kind of stuff.
all that kind of
we
stuff.
had a lot of similar sensibilities. We decided we wanted to do some other work together, and at that time, if I'm not mistaken, the rights to Famous Monsters magazine were available.
Yes, they had revived the magazine, and we thought that was, how great, a Famous Monsters movie, but what would it be? Well, maybe it's a collection of different monsters, a werewolf, a vampire, Frankenstein, a mummy. So we came up with this. It didn't work out with Famous Monsters, but we liked the idea so much that actually it was my sister that came up with the name Chillerama.
Really?
And then Liz, thank you. And then we kind of sat on it for years.
Yeah, we wanted to do this anthology film where each segment was a nod to cool old B monster movies.
But it was almost like it was going to be a mini movie because we grew up. We all love like House of Drip Blood, Asylum, that kind of stuff, and we hadn't seen those in a while. And the thing is, none of them have like a through line that really becomes the final story.
Correct. That was sort of the idea from the start, was that we thought that would be pretty cool. So then years later, Tim started telling me about these two new guys that he knew who were up-and-coming directors.
And you couldn't get them, so then you talked to us.
who
Yeah,
were
Rob Zombie and James Wan were busy with doing these little shitty movies like Devil's Rejects. and all that.
So he told me about these guys a bunch of different times who were making these cool horror movies, and they had a big following, and they were really talented. And in fact, I had also heard about Joe Lynch from Henry Rollins, because Henry Rollins liked Joe Lynch because he was in Wrong Turn 2,
Yep.
and he liked Joe, and so.
And I first heard about you, Adam. I don't know if you know, it's through Dee Snider. Because Dee always used, hey man, you gotta meet this really cool guy, SMF, So we, one day we always would go to the Rainbow Bar and Grill and have our little dinners and just geek out, because at heart we're really fans and we just love to geek out. And it was like one day this light bulb just went on. It was like, holy fucking shit. These are the other members of the band.
So we all kind of decided together, why don't we make Chillerama as a group, where each one of us will take on one of the individual films, and
and you could pick up the story from here, guys, because we've been talking too much.
Well, I mean, at first when they approached us with it, it sounded really cool. But, something that happens in this business, and I know everybody can testify to this, it's the horror world is very small. Like once you're lucky enough to really break in, and everybody every day wants to do an anthology movie. And so at first it was like, oh, really, man? Who cares? But it was the idea of this being a complete movie and not just individual things. I want to stop for a second so Joe can talk about this.
Yeah, actually, this is the great Richard Reilly. This whole character I had based on another script that I had done years ago called The Ozoners. That's what they called drive-ins back in the day, The Ozoners. It's had it had a great name to it. I was like, well, how do I do a horror movie in a drive-in and just use that? But when you guys came along and said, well, what if we did something with zombies at a drive-in? I was like, all right, I'm stealing all that stuff from that script and putting it in here. And one of the characters
Awesome.
was a gentleman named Cecil
Who is
Kaufman.
that, by the the way?
We have absolutely no
I
clue.
need
We have no
No.
idea, but her picture, that picture is in the bathroom at Ariscope. So every time someone goes to the bathroom, you're looking at
And
that
who's
woman.
that? Who's that? Is
Oh,
that?
that is the. We all know that is the great Orson Welles. And if you don't know, kids, you need to school yourself on the great Orson Welles.
Yeah.
But it was this one character who, the whole idea behind his thing is that, there is no more going to the movies anymore. It's always being, looking at things on VOD or high
illegally
def.
downloaded pirated movies of our versions of our movies.
Nobody goes out, exactly. Nobody goes out to the movies anymore. So, Cecil is being bought out by Blumps. Thanks,
Bastard.
Adam. And he decided that, this is going to be one night of him being able to show these films. And it was just such a sad and yet, interesting character to put into this film because, as hopefully you've watched this movie once through, you'll know that there's a lot of madness and mayhem that ensues. But to have a strong character from the beginning, and originally the part was written for, what was it? Keith David.
That's right.
The
Yeah,
great
that's who
Keith
you had in
David,
mind
who
at first.
took about 9 months to say no. So at the last minute, Adam had been like, well, actually, he'd been saying the whole time, why not get Reilly? And I was like, yeah, but then it's, it's like he's been in Hatchet before, and I wanted to try to find someone new. And then the second we actually talked to him, it just clicked. And I can't, for the life of me, think of anybody else who would have been better
No,
in this.
he is this guy, and he's the heart of this movie because, one of the main, in addition to homage to famous monsters and our love of this is we all grew up seeing movies, actually, what a concept, in drive-ins and at theaters, and I think that I feel bad for the younger generation. I sound like an old fart, but like the idea of a movie as an experience is
Well, it's
sort
a
of been
communal
lost.
experience.
Yeah.
It was the feeling of watching with everybody else. Really quick before we move on, this was why I did this movie. Was this the heart of everything he just said? This scene. This was why I said yes. This is why I dragged my own company into it to get the money together and everything. And so the first time I saw a cut of this, I was just so happy because it really tied everything together and what we were trying to do. Because this movie is not so much a send-up as it is a celebration for all of us. These are all the things that we loved, and we're just getting our chance to do it.
And like pack as much in as we can. And yeah, so we brought the project to, we mentioned it to you guys, and at the time you were about to go on and make Hatchet 2, which has since been released, made and released, and you brought your company Aeroscope on to produce this.
Yeah, well, it was, everybody, all of us were individually trying to think of ways to get this made, and it was very much a side project for all of us. And so Aeroscope, this is our seventh feature film now, I guess, and it was we started thinking about it and talking about it, and could we do it for a price, and how would we get it done? And you look at everybody's track record involved, and so thankfully we were able to get the money together. And I don't think Aeroscope is really at the heart of it. It's three guys. It's me, it's Will Barrett, the DP, who shot all of these, and Corey Neal, a producer. And we didn't know that this was going to end up taking 2 years to actually make and almost kill everybody, but it was
here,
worth it.
it's worth the wait. And now, without further ado, we'll all get back to that. But Adam Rifkin, take it away. We're going to turn the microphone over to Adam Rifkin, Wadzilla.
Well, as I was saying, here's Wadzilla. This is my segment. As I was saying, as we were all saying earlier, this movie is a celebration of some of the kinds of movies we grew up loving that you just don't see that often anymore. Drive-in movies, B movies, exploitation movies, movies that knew what they were and had fun with it. And so we wanted to do the same thing. And so I wanted my segment to be sort of an homage, a tip of the hat to a genre of movie that you'd call the giant monster attacks New York movie, the atomic era,
Jack Arnold.
Yeah, Jack Arnold kind of movie where, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, The Amazing Colossal Man, Godzilla, right? Obviously. And I just thought it would be very, very funny to see a funny style monster attacking New York. The monster in my mind being a giant sperm. I'd never seen anything like that before. Although I did see a giant boob in Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, which was directed by Woody Allen, who's one of my heroes. And so I wanted this movie to be an amalgamation of a couple of the different types of movies I love.
Like Jack Arnold crossed with Woody Allen.
Right, B giant monster movies and Woody Allen. So this, by the way, is Ray Wise.
Who's that?
That's me.
I've never seen you without a hat.
This is Ray Wise, who you will all know from movies like Good Night and Good Luck, and from TV shows like Twin Peaks.
I'm actually working with Ray on something coming up pretty soon. Yeah, Ray is phenomenal, and I really got to know him by hanging out on your set. I actually helped PA on Adam's set. I was running
That's
getting
true.
coffee for people.
You were craft service.
Oh, I have
remember.
to tell you. I also have to tell you that this kids show host is played by the infamous Ron Jeremy, porn icon, and famous children's show host. And the puppet, Dudley Dingleberry, is being puppeteered by Peter Schink,
also known as Poor
nice.
Pete.
Poor Pete, who he used to edit all my films before he retired from editing and started writing movies. He wrote the movie Legion. And he is also, if you go on Facebook and look at the Facebook fan page for Poor Pete, I love to torture him on Facebook.
Oh, he's going to love that.
Anyway,
Were you always going to be in this?
no, I did not want to play the lead in Wadzilla. We, in fact, had at various times big actors having agreed to play this part. I can't say who they are right now, but suffice it to say there were some very impressive names who at one time or another agreed to play this part.
But if you can't get Ben Affleck, get Adam Rifkin.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll put it to you this way. I was at the bottom of my list, and I systematically went down the list to to the point where there finally was me. Although at one point Adam Green suggested that he if all else failed, he would play the part.
That is true.
That is
would've been
true.
good.
Because at the time, a movie that you're making now, you had approached Joe and I about potentially being
That's
in,
right.
And I was like, I would totally love to do that for you. And so that was thrown. I forgot about
That
that.
was
It's
a
kind of
one-time
funny.
discussion.
You are of all of us, you are the only one who's not in the movie other than as yourself, Adam.
Actually, no, that's not true. But we'll get to that, and I'll point it out.
Oh,
Your
all
wife will be
right.
thrilled.
Anyway,
Oh.
anyway,
Well,
this
scene is like right out of
this
Revolutionary
is-
Road.
This is the fellow who plays my best friend Larry. His name is Owen Benjamin. He's a stand-up comic and a very funny guy, and he's going to be very, very famous very, very soon. Anyway,
me of Judge Reinhold.
this train is an antique train that we shot at in Anaheim. And that train platform actually was the little shack right next to the train that all the cityscape you saw behind it was all put in by Jason Miller. Jason Miller did so many of the
Very
great
indispensable.
digital effects in many of our shorts.
And for people at home, let them know that it was a choice to make this look scratchy and put.
Oh yeah, no. Well, listen. The reason that this movie has the look that my segment, every one of us created our own unique look for the individual segments of ours, and I wanted mine to look like an old, scratchy Technicolor print. If you look at movies like in the references we used, The Blob. Another movie was called Destination Moon. Another movie was called When Worlds Collide. They all have a very similar look. They're shot on 3-stripe Technicolor, and the prints that have survived have a sort of a grainy, scratchy vibe to them. And we tried our best to recreate this look. In fact, Lit, the post house who did our visuals, they actually contacted to help get this look, because it's not an easy look to create. They contacted Martin Scorsese's post people, because they created a software for the movie The Aviator to create some of the 3-stripe Technicolor footage, and they gave it to us to use. So
Thank you, Marty.
anyway,
Thank you, Marty
Summer,
Scorsese.
the lovely and talented Summer Altice, we cast her because she had such a fine bootay.
And there's your costume. Your production designer sitting in the back.
Yes, in the back, in the corner is Brett Snodgrass, who was the production designer of Wadzilla, and you, Tim, sitting looking like a character out of an old EC.
A nerd, yeah,
a nerd. A
Oh,
nerd
I
from,
never noticed Tim was in this
That's
scene.
me, yeah.
You made it into every
Looking-
one of them.
looking
I know.
like
I just see me in the corner there.
a Harvey
yeah, there you are.
Kurtzman character.
This is right out of Mad Magazine. That's what I just love
This
about
is meant
this.
to look like it was right out of the offices of Mad Magazine.
I mean,
That's the idea.
it looks like that could be the Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein having a.
That's exactly the idea. Anyway, I also wanted to, as we all, I think, to a certain degree did with this film, I wanted to make a movie that elicited a gut-level response from the audience at times. So I thought fun with, bodily fluids is you can never really go wrong.
No.
And so, this movie, one of the reviews out of Comic-Con, I think it might have been Dread Central, said it's astounding how much sperm there is in this movie. And it's true.
It's true.
There's copious amounts of semen.
Yeah, and it all pretty much starts off.
In this scene.
Well, it starts off right at the beginning with Joe's blue sperm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
you dropped the first goo.
But I always
dropped
kind
the first load.
of thought there's Wadzilla right there in his smaller form.
By the Kyoto brothers.
Yes, I want
the
to say
Kyoto
that
brothers.
the Kyoto brothers created Wadzilla, the actual Wadzilla physical effects, the puppets, and the stop-motion animation effects. And they, in addition to working on many films, creating many cool effects, they wrote, directed, and did all the effects and produced a movie that I loved called Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes.
And I actually had just worked with them about 2 years before
did?
this. I did a claymation series for American Eagle called Winter Tales, which you can see on the
wow.
Arescope website, and just love them. I've always been a fan of their
They're
work.
great.
And I had no idea until you said, "Oh, the Kyoto brothers are doing Wadzilla," and I was like through the roof excited. I had no idea that you were going
They
to
did
do this.
Team America.
Yeah, they did the
Fuck yeah.
puppets for Team America. They did all the
Critters.
marionettes. And Critters, yeah.
Yes, three of the nicest guys you'll ever
Great
meet.
guys, and they bring such a sense of whimsy to everything they do, which
Because
is
they're
great.
fans.
Yeah.
They're fans of this. I remember they came to the Comic-Con.
I love this.
Yeah.
Jerk off.
Jerk off.
Oh, so I just have to say, in this next shot coming up, we needed,
Ha-ha.
we were making this
Get
movie
it
for
coming up.
these cars, these period cars. Usually you make a movie, you have the budget, you rent period cars, right? We didn't have that kind of budget on this movie. So while we were shooting outside of the DP, Will Barrett's house for the exteriors of that shot, Jason Miller, one of our producers, literally drove down with a pretty girl to Bob's Big Boy on Friday night, which has antique car night, and bribed a few people to show up with their antique cars for one of our shots.
That's
Anyway-
the way to do it, though.
Anyway, the woman, the beautiful woman that you see here before me, is a very talented actress and model named Sarah Much, and this is her first big sort of role.
She's too much.
She is too much, and she is really funny. And we saw a lot of people for this part, and in fact, at times we had other celebrities who were signed up to play this role. And again, for one reason or another, schedules didn't work out and we didn't get them. But Sarah came to us through a friend of mine at CAA named Michael Kivas, who is kind of hip pocketing her, which means she's not officially signed there, but they believe in her and they send her out for auditions and things. And he turned me on to her, and she just was great. She just nailed it. She's like she's gonna be like another Cameron Diaz or something.
Well, talk about how you were able to jerk off in front of everybody.
Well, I didn't really. It was
You
pretend.
didn't?
It was pretend.
Oh.
Acting.
So anyway, I just want to say that I've always found the idea of the sperm cell itself as being a very bizarre idea that your body creates.
It's not an idea. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real. You're right. That is true, and that your body creates millions and millions of these little creatures all the time.
Sorry, but-
so
I
wanted.
murder them nightly.
Nightly.
So I wanted
Oh,
to.
and there we go. It's gotten bigger.
I wanted to see someone chase one around a bathroom. I mean, a couple of the scenes that came to my mind before I figured out what the story for Wadzilla is.
Sorry, besides Tim. How did no one else jump on that one?
A couple of the set pieces that came to my mind before I figured out how to piece them into a story, I pictured this scene of chasing a baseball-sized sperm around a bathroom.
Is that on a string?
That's on a string.
See, I
and
love practical effects.
It's a rubber sperm on a string, and the string was removed in post, digitally painted out.
Did you get hurt doing this?
I did get hurt a lot doing.
Everyone on the crew was so impressed with you after this. Like,
I
he
can't-
really went for it. No stunt guy.
Your
He-
physical comedy, I mean, it's just insane.
Well-
I just have to give you props because I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but you really are a great comedian and actor like you guys are, and you really knocked this part out of it.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much. My philosophy generally is that you just have to have an absolute, complete disregard for your own personal safety if you're about to do something comedic, because fuck pain.
Yeah, look at that.
You have to be willing to hurt yourself, because the bruises will heal, but if it's funny, the comedy gold will last forever.
There you go.
Anyway, all these are sets that Brett Snodgrass built, and he was right off camera here pumping water up through this toilet, which had a hole in the back of it.
I was wondering how you did that.
That's right.
That toilet makes another cameo in Defecation, by the way.
Oh,
So-
really? We
Oh, of
recycle
course.
That
it.
toilet is still sitting outside of my office.
Oh,
And
sell it on eBay.
Every time somebody comes over, it's like the most unsightly thing, and it's because it's still filled with shit from defecation.
Sorry.
Anyway, these puppet
It's got
effects.
kind of a Deadly Spawn look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the poster for Deadly Spawn, which was a movie that Tim worked on when he was 16 years old, was some of
80
the
years ago.
Yeah, which was it was some of the inspiration for the character of Wadzilla with the teeth and everything. Anyway, this is all this is puppet work done on green screen that Jason composited into the footage that we
This is
shot.
one of my favorite moments. This is a trailer moment. It's like,
Absolutely.
no, they didn't just do that.
We screened this film for an audience at Comic-Con, and the reaction was really, really exciting. The audience went pretty crazy for some of this stuff. But this scene was one of the scenes that actually got a really pretty fun reaction. Anyway, it was absolutely humiliating wrestling around with this puppet in front of everybody on the set.
Sort of like a metaphor for your career.
Oh, this poor lamp.
Especially
our
Corey
career.
Neal, our producer, was very upset when that lamp broke because it was a
It was
rental.
his lamp.
Anyway, as I was saying, it's especially doing this all in front of a very, very beautiful woman and wearing that wig, which was absolutely embarrassing.
Chicks dig wigs, man. Though.
They do.
I got to tell you
Just
something.
had Shannon Tweed.
I tried to flirt with her on the set. Easy,
Oh, you didn't.
easy.
Okay, here comes. I gotta say, this is
this
my
is great.
favorite
Love
shot
this,
of
love
the
this.
entire piece. This is genius here.
Yeah.
It's just the thunk, and then now I didn't hear the sound effect that you had done until recently, and it's
right.
like the little. Woo, it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Was that just being pulled over?
I want to
Like
just
on a
say that
string?
this actress is named Tanya Raymond. People know her
From
from
Lost.
the show Lost.
Yeah.
She worked with me on a Showtime series that I made called Look. and she is extremely talented. She's going to be very, very famous. She's working all the time. She's starring
Are
in
you
the...
just hoping that when the girls listen to this, they're going to be so impressed with how nice you are that they all ask you out for a date?
Very good, Tim. She stars in the reboot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is shooting now, the 3D version.
And that dog is Jason Miller's dog.
Jason
and
Miller's
that dog is
dog.
amazing.
Yeah, the dog is a very good actor. One of the best actors in the entire movie, actually.
No, honestly, like
Seriously.
Normally, you would pay a lot of money to have a trained dog come, and
Yes.
they probably wouldn't even be this good.
Correct.
Yeah, this
Oh, that
I
looked
love that
great.
shot. And the audience, they don't
It's
they
because
never,
Jason beats the shit out of that dog. I'm sorry. I
This
have
was
to tell
shot.
you.
This was shot in the. This was shot right outside of Ariscope's front door. We brought in all those greens.
That is?
We
Yeah.
created it. We created the a little corner of Central Park right there in front of Adam's office.
It
That's so
smells
cool.
like Ajax is my favorite line. I
Thank
want a
you.
shirt that says that.
Thank you.
I love that. Oh, she says people a lot miss that. She's talking to her mom. I love that.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, so we when we bit her head off, obviously we didn't actually bite Tanya Raymond's head off. So what we had is she was wearing a blue sock over her head, and Jason Miller erased her head in post.
Jason just did everything.
He really did. He really did.
Here's
Seriously.
Miles Dougal's second character that he plays in the movie Chillerama. He plays the hobo, the lovable hobo.
Without a shotgun.
That's right. This is shot in an alleyway in downtown LA, right behind the famous United Artists Theater. Right across the parking lot, you'll see when we take a little look here, in the parking lot to the right is everybody's favorite taco stand downtown.
And this is sort of very much themed after those movies that always started out with a personal story with like the poor guy and then it becomes a worldwide,
Of course. I should say that in that last shot, if you want to wind back and watch it, the 1950s cars in the background are miniatures that Jason put in.
Really?
Post. Yeah.
Even the one that drives by, right?
Even the
Isn't
one
it?
that drives by is a miniature.
Amazing.
wow, I did. And coming up, another favorite of ours.
Yes, Lynn Shay, who's been in all of our movies since Detroit Rock City, is a fabulous actress and just one of the great people of all time. And she's always funny and brings so much more to every role than is on the page.
And what a year she's having, too. I mean, Insidious.
God.
was
Oh,
just
Insidious
huge.
is such a huge hit, and people...
And a great movie.
Now they're recognizing her on the street finally, because like that.
Finally, yeah.
Finally, she's been doing this forever, and and now finally she's like she's like.
This was her ad lib, having her have found a milk dud in the garbage can.
And she'll do anything you ask her to. She'll just show up and she's game.
She's game for anything. Anyway, Miles Dougal as well is pretty much game for anything, which is why, he was happy to pull his pants down in the middle of an alleyway in downtown LA.
Which is funny because he had no problem pulling down his pants for my segment as well. So it's
Interesting.
Like,
He
we're-
pulled
we're-
him
we're
down
starting
for
to see
my
him
segment. He wasn't
motif.
even
I
in
saw
it.
him pulling him down in front of a nursery school last week.
We can
This
edit
is
that out.
Wait, did he really?
Okay, so here is more handiwork by the Kyoto brothers.
Are you gonna ask me why I was there?
Hey, I
Sorry.
love these effects right here.
This side
is
angle,
amazing.
this side
I
angle
love this. This
is
is
fun.
great.
This is exactly what the movie's about. This kind of old school stop motion effects and again the Kyoto.
this is the
By the
first
way,
time I
these,
saw that.
These are my legs, just FYI.
Oh, really?
Jason and I went downtown to shoot that shot, just him and me and a camera.
Nice leg.
A cop drove
This
by
is great.
on his
Like,
bicycle and didn't even
This sums
stop.
up Chillerama to me.
That's
like this
a
stuff
that's
right
a
there.
miniature dumpster, obviously. That to me sums up what this movie's about. That kind of old school looking fun effect.
And the fact that we fucking hate homeless people.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a joke.
This was Broadway, downtown LA, right on Broadway. We were supposed to shoot on the other side of the street, but at the last second, the businesses on that side of the street tried to shake us down for $5,000. So we just moved to this side of the street, where the owner of the falafel stand said that we could shoot outside his falafel stand and inside his falafel stand all night if we wanted, just as long as we locked up when we were finished, which is true. I mean, the guy was incredibly
Really?
nice. And this is his falafel store right here that we made our appliance store. And I just have to say that the person on the television is a guy named Rich Coase. When I was growing up in Chicago, I saw all of my favorite monster movies on a show called The Son of Svengoolie. Son of Svengoolie is Chicago's local horror show host.
Zachary,
And that's
Elvira.
right. Yeah,
Goulart.
he's Chicago's version
That's
of that.
him?
And so that's him.
That's Svengoolie?
That's Svengoolie. That's Rich Coase.
How did you get him to do this?
I know him. I've known him for years, and so he shot his segment in his studio in Chicago in front of a green screen, and he FTP'd the footage to
Holy
us.
shit, I
and
didn't
we
realize
put it
that.
into that television. Those televisions, by the way, are Cardboard boxes painted to look like television.
That's
Still
amazing.
outside of my office. All of this stuff. It's like a dumping ground for a Chillerama. It's
Or a
pretty
Chillerama
funny.
museum that you can all
the
come by
Aeroscope
and look.
offices are the little area there is the back lot, the Aeroscope back
Yes,
lot.
that-
Periscope backlot. I love that.
Now, all of the trucks and everything that's
Everything.
blowing up, that's all miniature,
All
right?
miniatures. All the people running are running on a blue screen treadmill. I mean, obviously, when you pay attention, you can see that's a miniature tank. Everything's miniature.
That
But
treadmill
that's-
went to Robert Pendergraft. He just took it from the Aeroscope backlot yesterday.
Really?
It's painted blue, so yeah, but he did take that treadmill. That's Robert Pendergraft did the makeup effects for a lot of these.
Yeah, he's
segments.
great. But that's the thing. It's like you didn't want it to look, like a CGI brand new.
No, we wanted it to look like an old movie. You know.
Oh,
what
this
I
is
mean?
great. This reminds me of 20 Million Miles to Earth when the Ymir.
That's exactly what it's supposed to look like.
And that was one of the most fun things about making these is that we tried to make them really like the time period, not just like as an afterthought at the end. Oh, let's just color it to what I mean. The angles, the shots. Oh, Eric Roberts,
Who's
of
that
course.
guy?
The great Eric Roberts, ladies and
Yay.
gentlemen.
Now wait, here comes. That's my favorite joke in the whole goddamn thing.
This is the first
Brilliant.
time I
Because
saw that.
after that, now anyone who goes, it looks like green screen. Yes, it does, moron.
Exactly.
That's the idea. That's exactly the idea.
Yeah, how did you get Eric Roberts?
Eric Roberts, I know him and his wife just from meeting them at screenings and things.
Right.
So I contacted his wife, who also was in the movie Animal House.
Oh.
She's one of the sorority girls who, you remember the scene, do you mind if we dance with your
Yeah,
dates?
yeah.
She's one of those girls.
Oh, that's so
Wow.
funny.
And so-
Fawn Lieberwitz's.
Fawn Lieberwitz's friend, right?
Right.
And so I said to her, hey, I'm doing this kooky little movie, and it'd be great if Eric played General Bukaki, and she said, we're in. She didn't even
And then
ask him.
she also did this.
Oh, this
That's
is
her, right?
No, this is the famous Kelly Devine, porn star extraordinaire. She's famous for her big booty, and she was
She's
very.
a porn star?
She's a porn star, and she was very
Good to
happy to
know.
come down and help out and shake her ass in the name of liberty.
Wow.
All of these shots.
God bless
This
America.
is great. This I just.
We actually had to get this jumbo condom from England. We couldn't find the right size jumbo condom. And
Really?
and so I found it on eBay
I could've
from
given you one.
London.
Why didn't you ask Adam?
Shit, I should have. This is
This
right
is
outside.
miniature, right?
This is a miniature, yeah.
Outside Aeroscope.
That's right.
Actually, this is inside Aeroscope. This whole fucking movie was like shot in my office, and my office got destroyed. I went in on a Saturday. There was fake cum and blood everywhere.
That wasn't fake, Adam.
Well, yeah, it was like it was insane how much sperm you threw around.
I think this could be a good commercial for safe sex.
That's exactly what I intended this to be.
Eric Roberts has the nicest teeth ever because I got him coffee on this day. I literally did go to set and I was like, I just want to be a PA for Adam Rifkin, and I did it
He
all
did
day
it.
long. And
It's true.
It was fun and it was great.
Halfway through the day, I fired him because he wasn't moving quickly enough.
He said, what I really want to do is be a direct.
Jason Miller composited all these shots that the
That
Kyoto
is
Brothers
genius.
animated. Beautiful work.
That is just genius.
This is obviously a hand puppet that Brett Snodgrass was operating.
I love that.
Wonderful piece of improv right there by Eric Roberts
Yeah,
with
it
the
was.
helmet.
The helmet. Did you hear the sound effect we added on that?
No.
We put a ting when he.
Oh,
that's
that's Actually, speaking of sound effects, the thing that works so well with the condom hitting the Statue of Liberty is when it goes thump. That was
Yeah.
great. It like makes so much scope.
this is
And,
the,
of course,
So
Buckets of cum.
I wanted to be able to stake claim to the biggest cum shot ever committed to film, and so it was important to me that we just doused everybody with
Except Eric Roberts
copious
wouldn't do
amounts
it,
of
right?
semen. No, Eric Roberts said, "No, I'm out of here." He left before we dumped. So he's probably.
So you'll see some random guy covering his face in a few
Exactly.
shots. I thought
Right.
that was brilliant.
Right.
wow. Yep, there he is.
There he is. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Eric Roberts double, just covering his
Bukkake
face.
stand-in?
This was an ad lib by
Yeah.
Ray Wise that got a huge laugh at Comic-Con.
We keep talking about Comic-Con. Just so you guys know, a
Oh,
few
yeah.
weeks ago, we screened kind of a rough version of it at Comic-Con because, you got all
It's
these
actually
fans down there.
mid-August as we're doing this right now.
Yeah, mid-August 2011 that we're recording this. But it was the first time any of us really saw the movie with anybody besides ourselves. And
Right.
we learned a lot from it. It was great, and people just had a blast.
What was kind of fun was we kind of all went off and did our own. It was fun when we actually came together and saw each other's for the first time. Yeah, because I was just blown away when I saw
Oh, I should
this.
say this. I got to say this real quick. The backgrounds of New York are actually the Universal backlot.
Really?
Yeah, it's New York Street. And so we went on to the Universal backlot with Will Barrett's fancy schmancy high definition camera, and under the guise of taking stills as a location scout, we actually were photographing our plates, and those are the plates we used for our New York.
And the score is very, you know.
And I should say this little ending animation of the end and the beginning Wadzilla and the end, where it says the end and turns into the question mark, is the animation work of a guy named Andy Toutant, who is a great animator and did us a great favor by doing
And
it.
again, a nod, obviously, to
The Blob.
Yeah.
And of course, the sequel, this is what sets up the sequel.
But that's right out of the Blob itself, right?
That is right out of the Blob.
And
That
the
is
sequel.
correct.
Sorry, we didn't get to doing this before. Can we talk a little bit about your cast, Joe?
Exactly.
Our main
Sure,
kid?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the good things about this is that it always goes back to the cast. I mean, one of the things that was great about this whole idea was that we weren't going to do a normal anthology film where it was just going to be like, say for Creepshow, you had the Tom Atkins like bookends. We wanted to kind of allow the audience to have the experience with an audience. So what we designed was an idea that you'd have these three different, you know, sets of characters that would be watching the film along with the audience, and then inadvertently by the end they become part of the final short. So in that long shot that you saw in the beginning outside of the drive-in, we introduce a couple that brings their baby. These three are the Geek Squad that come every weekend to watch the film and all have their own little relationship problems. And here's a very sly Gremlins joke that hopefully gets pays off here, and then also another Hatchet little in joke here. But the thing that I loved about going to the drive-in or going to the movies or hanging out with guys who are like film geeks is we all speak in movie quotes.
Yeah.
it just happens.
Like
you
a
know,
different language.
Exactly. It's just it's a way to relate to other people and stuff. And I wanted to just completely infuse movie quotes in this whole thing, which means we're probably going to get sued. But
I
you know,
really
that's
love your
just how
moving
we.
camera, and your whole segment has a real modern fluidity, you know.
That was the whole point of like, because I knew that all of you guys were going to be doing something that was going to be dated, you know, like,
Yeah.
or that you were going to stick to aesthetics, especially after I saw, because Adam, I know we're jumping a little ahead here, but when I saw Anne Frankenstein, he had adhered so closely to the look of an old 40s film that I was like, well, the thing that would be good for this is if we shot it more like real life, or at least as real life as possible. So the aesthetic that I wanted to go with here was more of like Dazed and Confused, where it was just, hey, the camera's kind of following all these different people around. It's more of an ensemble, you know.
Right.
That's Laura Ortiz, a very, 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 very close friend of mine, and Joe's co-star in
our new
Holliston, in our new
TV
TV
show.
show that starts shooting in just like 30 days.
Hopefully we'll be on the air still while when this comes out.
She's
Already
in
been
Anne
canceled.
Frankenstein too, right?
And she's in Anne
She is,
Frankenstein.
Oh, is
yeah.
she the one that does that face?
Yes.
She's very funny.
Now,
is.
the
She's great.
the gentleman on the left is Brendan McCreary, who is the brother of composer Bear McCreary, who I had actually is the first person that I wrote the part or any part for in this. I'd seen him. He's a very talented musician who actually contributes 2 songs to the film. But I saw him live one night, and I said, I got to write something for him. And it just kind of worked out perfectly. He was totally game for it, and the rest of the cast, aside from like a lot of favors like Miles and Brendan, we cast. Well, actually, no. Laura, we brought in as a favor as well. But the 2 other kids in the car were from casting, who were absolutely amazing and totally got it. Ward Roberts, who is Ryan's brother, is actually a very accomplished filmmaker himself. So he was very cool about kind of doing us a favor. I wanted to have as many people who knew the kind of limitations that we had making a movie like this, because all of us were under very, very, very strict parameters, you know.
Yeah.
No time, no money, go.
Let me ask you a question, but sorry to interrupt you, but who shows up for work after their dick and balls have just been bitten off?
I
A
did
very
when I worked at
dedicated
Market
member
Basket.
of
did.
the employee squad.
Apparently so.
I'd like to point out, and throughout Joe's stuff, now remember, the rest of us had shorts. Joe had monumental undertaking to get all of this interstitial stuff and his short and dedication. So I actually did a lot of second unit for this. So I was a
loved
PA
it.
for Adam.
Yeah.
I was second unit
You did
director
all
for
that?
Joe.
Because I just have to say, I love the loving details that you put to the film going through the projector, the butter going up. It's just evoking all those little nuances of this experience of a drive-in.
Yeah, well, that's part of the thing that thinking about going into the concession stand and seeing all the popcorn being in, the smells, the sights, the sounds, having the old posters. Those posters are actually made by Stephen Romano, who's a very acclaimed screenwriter and also an artist who donated a bunch of these old movie posters so we wouldn't have to get any clearances.
By the way, I'll also say that, you know, most of the time when somebody makes a movie for the budget we had to work with, it's somebody's first opportunity to make a movie. But because we've all made movies and because we've all had a lot of experience, we were able to take our knowledge of what we've done in the past and apply it to knowing what our limitations are and how to best
That's my
capitalize.
handwriting. Wait, sorry, my handwriting, and that's the phone number from Frozen that they get from
I love
Sean
those
Ashmore
little. I
gets.
love those little.
So that's why, though, the fact that we've all made movies before and just rolled up our sleeves knowing what the limitations were, why we were, I think, all able to get a really big look for a really low budget.
Yeah, exactly. And that's Ward and Olivia in the background, who's also in Wadzilla.
She's the nurse in Godzilla.
She is beautiful.
and amazing. Like she was
Such a trooper.
Well, not only that, she liked Evil Dead, so that's pretty much why we cast her.
I
It was
just
easy.
love the way you segue, Joe, into Werebears. This is just fucking awesome.
Well, that was the whole point, was we wanted to make sure that each segment was slid into each other very effortlessly, you know, so that it felt like one long experience. And with that,
And speaking of sliding into things effortlessly,
good segue.
I was a teenage werebear. When we started this, originally it was going to be like a werewolf. By the way, this song playing is Bobby Vitton's first original song in 20 years. He did American Werewolf in London opening song, Blue Velvet. It's hard to believe, but he did a song for this movie. But originally, when we were going to do this, it was going to be I was a teenage vampire. And because there was always I was a teenage werewolf, I was a teenage Frankenstein, but never teenage vampire.
You always had the Rebel Without a Cause thing that you wanted
Yeah,
to do.
it was always, I wanted to do something in the 50s, Rebel Without a Cause, but I got to admit, Teenage Vampire wasn't working out. I wasn't feeling it. Then I started doing something High School Musical, and somewhere along the way, I lost my way and did a modern version of this. And then one day, I got a phone call from you, and you had come up with a concept of a werebear.
Which actually we came up with the concept, well, like the word werebear, I don't know how it popped up in our heads, but Adam and I went to go see Halloween 2 at the drive-in we shot at.
Right.
Because I wanted to show him what it was like to be at this drive-in.
No,
And
there was.
And by the way, I just have to real say,
He was
that's
just-
my friend Paul Ward from Ireland, who just directed Stephen King's short, and he came all the way from Ireland to be in this film. Thank you, Paul.
nice.
Yeah, but Joe and I don't go to the drive-in together. We were scouting
Right.
just to make that.
Oh,
very
sorry.
clear.
Scouting.
And the idea was, in the gay community, there is something called a bear, which is a leather daddy or a hairy guy. Think of like, Ron Jeremy or the guy from the Village People in the leather and chaps. And once you said werebear, the idea of like a Zac Efron type, and again, James Dean, red jacket, turning into a leather daddy. Once you said that to me, the whole thing came together. And then Adam, you and I were having a conversation, and the next thing was, well, we like those beach blanket bingo movies and Horror Party Beach. And next thing I knew, it was a musical, and it just felt that fits in with a drive-in, that kind
Frankie
of thing.
and Annette movies.
Yeah.
Right, and Roger Corman meets John Waters, and I started thinking of Hairspray. So next thing I know, this whole thing just came together. It became a musical. Here's the first song. It's very Grease 2. That's Gabby West from Scream Queens, who won the contest of the show I was a part of, and Sean Paul Lockhart, who is known also as Brent Corrigan, who is a very big gay adult icon in the gay adult film world, and we had seen.
Wait a minute. Let me just stop you for
Yeah.
a second. How do you know so much about gay culture?
Oh, I'm gay, Adam. You didn't know that?
Wait, you're gay?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Did you guys know that?
Did you guys know that?
I did. I knew that.
How did you know that?
Well, that's why I made that joke earlier.
Oh,
I just thought it was kind of just a one-night thing.
no, it's real. It's forever.
No, but you're gay like you like boys instead of girls?
Actually,
guys, we don't say boys after that lawsuit.
Adam's making a joke here, but to speak a little bit more seriously, one of the things that was exciting about this is you don't get this usually in a mainstream horror thing, and that was one of the things that we were all excited about. Was
Not too excited.
Each of our shorts though represents a little bit of who we are, and we bring something to it, and we all encouraged him to go this route and do something that This isn't just. It's not just for a gay audience. This is a movie for everybody. And
I'm very grateful. I'll say it. I've said it in interviews. I'll say it publicly. You know, you guys gave me the opportunity to tell this story, to do this, and it is groundbreaking because a lot of times if it has a gay theme, it's specifically targeted for a gay audience. I've sort of dealt with those issues a little bit in my films, but this was an opportunity for all of us to kind of do something outside of the studio system that we may never get a chance to do again.
Plus, it's 2011. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It's
People
not 40
have
years
issues
ago.
with it
People
now.
have issues
It's
with
like-
it now. That's their problem.
And so many of those teen angst movies of the, you know, Rebel Without a Cause all the way to High School Musical, it almost seems like, you know, should I be a basketball player or go to drama school? I mean,
Wait, you know what?
really is the subtext?
I just thought of something.
What?
You could even say that his character of feeling like a monster and feeling like he doesn't fit in and belong in a world that is judging him, you could almost say that it parallels being gay.
That was the point, you douche.
Really? I went right over my head. And here again, Rob Pendergraph, great fucking special. But the idea was, you know, it's always. You think of Rebel Without a Cause with Sal Mineo and his feelings for James Dean. You know, what really is that all about? So I just decided to not make the subtext the text. And it's a story of a kid who prefers the boy next door to the girl next door. His clueless girlfriend doesn't get it. And it just so happens that the boy next door is a werebear. And here we have Adam Robitel, who's been in all my Maniac films, and he edited Field of Screams, and and Anton Troy, who's playing the sort of Fonzie character. It's, you know, and Gabby doing her thing. But the idea was, we saw 100 guys. We saw so many people for the role of Ricky, and none of them were really as good as Sean. And I knew him because he had been in a movie called Another Gay Sequel, where he played a merman, and he was hilarious. And I remember we were like 2 weeks from shooting, and everyone was like, "Guys, you really have to find your Ricky," because he, you know. And I said to Joe, "I have found him, but there's a problem." And you said, "Wait a minute." And I remember sending you his audition. You said, "Why haven't you cast him?" And then I sent you his website as Brent Corrigan.
Yeah, you did. that was a lot of fun. I was actually in the edit for Nights of Bad Aston watching that, and my producers were like, "What do you? Whoa! What you do on your time is on your time." You know.
But the thing that really, I will be eternally grateful, again, Lynn Shay, another, you know, playing the Maria Uspenskaya character from The Wolfman, Maleva the Gypsy. But you guys basically said, you know, we would be hypocrites to have Ron Jeremy be in this and all this and not let you cast Sean.
I don't even think it was that as much as it was, if you believed in whoever it was, he could have been, you know, like just some accountant that you had met, you know. It wasn't just that. It was like, it went the same thing for all of us, you know. If this was the creative freedom that we've always wanted, and if that's who you wanted, then go for it, you know. I mean, it was, you know, Sean does bring an extra cachet of fan base,
he does,
you know,
yeah.
so that's really good.
And there was definitely some backlash, but now it's, you know, we took this, we were able to take this one as a little short film to the gay film festivals, and it did really well there, and he got the Rising Star Award, and and he now has a mainstream career ahead of him thanks to this film and thanks to you guys for letting me cast him. And so again, here we are. That sort of was the beginning of Grease, where, you know, love is a many splendored thing. There's a lot of Grease references, and she's definitely doing the Michelle Pfeiffer thing. And you know, we're paying homage to so many different films in this: The Wolfman, Rebel Without a Cause, Lost Boys, you know, Beach Blanket Bingo, and of course the whole metaphor that, you know, stay away, you know, from that kid. He's not good for you. And this is an interesting thing. Originally, we were gonna shoot in a high school, but the cost of that was so prohibitive. And Corey Neal, actually, our producer, came up with the idea of, well, what if we just shoot it on a beach? It would be very cheap to shoot on a beach.
And it feels more like those movies anyway.
Exactly.
You know?
And quite honestly, when I grew up in New Jersey, I thought every kid in California just went to school on the beach.
And hung out on the beach,
And that's all they did. So
That's what they did in Gidget.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, with this film, that's a nice little shot for all you straight guys. But and yes,
Hey, that's Tim.
Yeah, and a very
that's
awful,
a nice shot for all you gay guys.
Yeah, and a very awful outfit. That is exactly.
But didn't you have the control of what you wore, being that you were the director of your own segment?
I did, and just like you said, let's go for it. I decided to go for it, and that is the exact outfit of my asshole gym teacher from the '80s.
I get it.
And you know, but originally I had another actor in mind, and he bailed out at the last minute. So it was one of those things where, you know, again, you know, you just by default, you do this stuff. And what I loved about this was we always turned our creative and financial challenges into, our financial obstacles into creative choices. So by shooting this on the beach, it just gave it this wide open look that I think contrasts kind of nicely with the other films. And again, Will Barrett, the cinematographer of all four, who truly is the secret weapon on this, gave this that rich, saturated, Technicolor Archie comic.
What did you shoot that on?
I'm sorry?
What did you shoot it on?
We shot it on the Canon 7D.
That's right, okay.
On the Canon 7D, and Will shot it very, wide aperture and very wide lenses, and this we had our crane for the day, to get us our big crane shot, and
it's funny to see that little camera on a big crane,
It is, it is exactly, and the old sand being kicked in the face, and this song is sort of a homage to a song called "Scream" that Zac Efron sings in High School Musical, and I wrote these songs. I've never written songs before. I can't play or write a note of music, but I loved growing up with American Graffiti and Happy Days, and these kind of songs are embedded in my head. So I wrote them as sort of poems and then just started singing them in a tape recorder. And what was interesting is my friend Bill Condon, who did Dreamgirls and Chicago, said something I never realized. He said, in a movie musical, whenever they sing a song, it's almost like it's a thought balloon in a comic book, and what the characters are singing, the other characters really aren't hearing. It's for the audience to know what they're thinking. So I thought that was a kind of a good way to tell the story quickly. And you always have a funny comment when you see this scene.
Which was what? I forget.
I think the director might.
Oh yeah, watching this, I tend to think that the director might be gay.
He might be.
He might be gay. The sexual identity of the director might be.
See, I thought this was an homage to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Totally. That's
Jesse's dance number.
That's totally in there. And if that's totally. And I can't believe they swear they weren't aware when they were making that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that is, of course, Jackie O. One little thing like that. Travis, our production designer, and I never was able to pronounce his last name.
Zarwini.
Well, Travis Zarni, just little touches like that by putting a picture of Jackie O just dates it and makes it feel like the period. And all these were actually the urinals, and we on the beach, and we took all the urinals out and just turned them into little standing sets, and we just kept moving them back and forward. But this is the scene.
Wait, hold on. So the actors are barefoot in where the urinals are?
No,
on public beaches?
none of us were barefoot.
Oh, okay, good.
But what was interesting is if you looked at like Teenage Werebear and all those teen horror movies.
That's the part that disgusted you out of this entire movie. We're throwing semen on everybody. We're like biting off balls. But that
shit flying everywhere.
Urine on that floor.
You might have gone too far there, Tim.
Exactly. But always in those classic movies, the kid is always confessing to the authority figure who ends up doing an experiment on him. And my goal here was that in this, all the, the homophobic, bullying, authority figures are actually closeted cases themselves. And also as an excuse to get my head between Sean's legs. So, hey,
look at Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Again, like to keep going back to that, but the coach who's such an asshole, and then he's into all the leather and whips and chains.
Exactly.
Whipped.
And for anybody who hasn't watched Nightmare on Elm Street 2 lately, after you watch this, seriously watch that, because like they tried to pass that off as like straight cinema and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like
in the gay community, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is considered. It's like that whole thing. There's something inside of me. It's Freddy. I mean, that really was an. You're absolutely right.
It's a very seminal sort of film.
Yes, and that was an entire influence on this whole Teenage Werebear, and now it's that whole last effect was an effect that we just did like 3 times because we could never get the damn head to explode right. But we wanted to have that one effect, and again, we weren't trying to make the effects look, realistic. We were going for that 1950s kind of cheesy look, and one of the first, I don't know why, but the first scene that I ever had in my thoughts for this was he's going to become aware of during the shower rape scene, and I just kept thinking of Carrie in that scene, plug her up.
Yep.
I thought, wouldn't that be funny if you see the guy go out of the frame and it's the guy out of the frame, and then he comes up and he's the werebear. But on paper, a shower rape scene doesn't, and that's production value, that extra who just showed up and was more than happy to.
He was
Chris
funny.
He's a
Raff.
whole lot of production value.
That's production value. But the thing was, I think that this scene is the one that made a lot of agents and managers in town send me back this script as ashes. And I'm not kidding you. And of course, on paper, and I get it. Like even you guys were a little worried. And on paper, this could read horrible, but I knew how I wanted to do it and how to make it funny. And I knew, and what really does it is Adam Robitel, who plays Butch and is such a ad lib. He came up with that line, "This is for you, Jesus," you know, when he puts his hand over his head. And again, how much sense does that make? You always hear about, you know, people who are, you know, teaching gays a lesson by raping them. That makes sense. So this is sort of, and of course, the soap on a rope, and he made up this whole the whole scream and all that.
Who's that guy?
That is a guy named Tom Colby, and he came in, and he really doesn't look that different from that in real life. He just kind of has a little bit of grease paint. He actually showed up for the audition. Actually, I remember, Joe, you told me, make sure you get the most authentic leather daddies you possibly could.
Oh, and you did.
And I'm not kidding you. These guys are wearing their own outfits. These are not costumes.
Seriously?
These are not costumes. They all came to the audition. And the thing is, then they show up at the premiere, and they're like polo shirts, and they're just very mild-mannered. But they all, and of course, that was my, you know, death by werebear dong. And,
which I thought a nice touch with it on being uncut. That was very nice and very sly.
That's
what a dog
Rob.
dick looks like.
That's what, yeah.
I mean,
and I have to give props to Jason Miller, who that whole gore sequence was all shot by him, because I had to go, while they were shooting the massacre, I was shooting the luau dance scene, because we literally didn't have time. We had 5 days to shoot this whole thing. So it's so funny, because even though I consider myself a horror director, all the blood and guts was actually directed by Jason Miller. So it was like a porno director has someone else shoot his cum shots.
Hey, wait a minute.
But anyway, that was bad. This is my you know, homage to Maria Uspenskaya, even a man who's pure in heart and says his prayers by night. And it's funny how the newer generations don't get that joke as much as us Universal monster.
Can we talk about that for
schools.
just a quick second?
Please.
We all do the conventions and stuff. How weird it is. And look, you know, the kids, 14-year-old kids today, this is their time or whatever. But when they come up and they try to tell you, you know, because everything's being remade right now, and they want to talk to you about the original, and they're like, oh, you know, John Carpenter's Halloween was boring. That was, and it's like, and it's so hard to not throttle them and just punch them in the face and be like, you know, but you can't, because this is their time. But you're right, like the original Wolfman Dracula, the things
that's like parchment to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they consider Halloween an old movie, I mean, my God, what do they think of but so much of that is an influence of these, the templates, you know, even Wadzilla, the 50s movies, and my God, yours, you know, Anne Frankenstein. But you know, so this is the part now where, you know, it basically at heart, what this is a story is, it's about a kid who's, you know, bit by a monster and wondering if, you know, he's become a monster, which is a metaphor for a lot of young guys who are, you know, myself went through this, where, you know, you're kind of told that being liking the guy next door versus the girl next door makes you an outsider, makes you bad and evil.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you gay?
I'm starting to want not to be, because I gotta admit,
because
Gabby West turned me on while we were making this.
Because you know, being gay is curable now. Haven't you heard?
Well, Fred Phelps says it is. Pastor Fred Phelps.
Actually, have you talked about Gabby and how you met her?
He did mention the show.
Yeah,
Like-
but this is, I really want to, you know, give props to Gabby, because she brought so much comedy to this. And I was on a show called Scream Queens, where every week we had these, you know, actresses, we directed them in scenes from classic horror movies, and she beat everybody out. And the prize was to be in Saw 3D, but they pretty much cut her part out of the damn movie. And
She's in it for like a blip.
And it was ridiculous. So I felt really bad. And plus, she was so talented. I said, well, I want to put her in this movie. And, you know, she got to sing and dance and do comedy, which she never got a chance to do before. Now, this is Anton Troy, who...
Fantastic.
Oh, so good.
I mean, this guy just exudes the 60s, 50s vibe. And he brought that whole Elvis way to singing this song. And all the actors do their own... singing, and and Sean did very well. I mean, he's not a professional singer, but I really wanted more it to be like the character singing versus it sounding like, you know, a professional recording. And I'm very happy to say that all the actors did their own singing, and this is that sort of, you know, summer lovin' song, but done between, you know, James Dean and Elvis Presley type thing. and I thought this would be a great way to show the transformation. Instead of having, American Werewolf effects where the skin pulsates and all that, just do a dissolve like they used to do. And I always thought it was funny that when they changed, their costumes are there too. Like they just transform and suddenly they have their chains.
That's the beauty of the joke, you know.
That's a werebear.
But then it's very old school. I mean, with the whole Cheney, transformation, we've regressed back to screw Rick Baker. We know how to really do it,
Yeah, and I always loved, like in the original Teenage Werewolf, how it was so obvious it was grease paint. You could see it stopped at the neck, like they stopped applying it at the neck.
I remember when I was a kid, I was pissed that I was a teenage werewolf because he was running around as a werewolf during the day.
Yeah, that never made sense.
That broke all the rules to me. I now
so
you
that's
appreciate
what I did
it,
with
but
this. And if you notice, the werebear, Ricky, has the little white in his hair like Michael Landon does.
Yeah, funny.
And Rob Pendergraft, am I pronouncing his name right?
Robert Pendergraft.
Robert
yes.
Pendergraft did this
Bobby P.
incredible design for this, and I loved it because I wanted it to be good, but at the same time evoke, that's exactly the kind of makeup you would see in the American International movies back in the day. And these guys were just, and I loved having, Pat and Darren Billum, who were the twins that were actually in Field of Screams. They came all the way out from Iowa to do this, and I just loved having them transform. Now this, the performing is the Rob Vinton Band. Rob is the son of Bobby Vinton, and as much as I like Kiss, I will admit, yes, I am a closet Bobby Vinton fan, and I had just seen him in concert.
you're not in the closet about anything.
I know. And well, I am about my feelings for you, Adam.
What? Cut!
Anyway, Bobby Vinton, I went and saw him, and his son asked to do some music, and to my delight, he was in a Hawaiian surf band, and they came out to be a part of this. We shot, what's interesting is all the stuff looking at the audience was shot on the beach in Sycamore Cove, but in order to get Bob Vinton's band in the movie, we had to shoot on a Saturday, and you're not allowed to shoot on the beach on a Saturday. So anytime the camera looks this way we're on a beach, this way we're on a soundstage the night later. And Will Barrett did the most incredible job of tying it together with all the sort of the string lights and having everything just go out into darkness and just made it, seamless. Now, this to me is like Anton Troy is just a star in the making. This whole Do the Werebear thing just is they always had songs back in the 60s that were like the name of a dance, like, Born to Hand Jive in Grease and the Bristol Stomp. So that's the whole point of Do the Werebear. And Josh Brodus, who's right in the center there, was my vocal coach and choreographer. And it was crazy because we'd be shooting, while we're shooting this, Jason Miller's shooting the Luau Massacre, and I think that they were shooting some inserts somewhere else. And the only way we could do a movie like this in this kind of time nowadays is because of those Canon 7Ds.
Yeah.
And we had 4 of them, and I had a team, Gavin Heffernan and Paul Ward and Brian McCulley and Mark Hudson, my friends. They're all filmmakers, but they all came out and helped me, and they all had their own cameras, and they all were shooting, so we would get 5 angles at the same time, and everybody, they just all came out to help, like you were saying on your films. And then another Ron Jeremy cameo. So so I got Ron Enlin in mind, the Play Bear, which kind of sums up what a werebear is. And again, another masturbation scene in Chillerama.
There's a lot of masturbation and sperm
I think we
in this
have some
movie.
issues
Not
that we've
in
gotten
mine.
through.
I know. We're working them all out.
You don't have masturbation
you just
in
have
your
problems
film?
with Jews.
Ew, what's
I know,
wrong
right?
with you?
I guess I'm the weak sauce here.
You have
in
Jew
this.
issues.
Oh, the weak sauce. So anyway, that's John McCormick and Ward Emonson as my twin werebears, Dan and Den. Chris Stavisky plays Werebear Ricky. Chris, I was actually in a film called Bloody Bloody Bible Camp where I, believe it or not, played a transsexual serial-killing nun.
Ew.
And on days that I was doing something else, Chris played Sister Mary Chopper, so he was perfect. So he came in and played Werebear Ricky. And again, this is sort of like, I know this sounds silly, but the werebear on the left is the Malcolm X werebear, and he's the Martin Luther King werebear. And they both want acceptance, but one wants it through violence and one wants it through peace and love. So that's sort of the silly...
Isn't that sort of Magneto and
Magneto and Xavier.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I just want to cuddle and you just want to feast. As the song goes, love bit me on the ass. So now comes the big massacre that they always have at the end of these movies, and they always show people like running and all this. And we had 40 minutes left that night to shoot this scene, and we just literally had people just like a real massacre, and Will got in the middle of that. And I remember like that part, the guy actually sliced Will and cut his forehead because he just got so into it. And Will just kept going with the blood bleeding. I mean, Will's just amazing. And, I was thinking, all right, this is Earl Roselle, who plays a character named Mr. Paisley, and he had a through line that had to get cut out of the film for timing. So if you go to the deleted scenes, you'll see the whole through line of this authority figure who's another, making fun of the kid for being gay, but he's closeted himself and wears women's clothing. So now, if you notice, this is actually a silver bat, and how else do you kill a queer wolf or a werebear than with a silver dildo, I guess it could also be. And of course, she happens to have it. That's actually a dildo. That was a bat, and there was a whole thing we had to cut out, so we just made it seem like that whole thing was always the dildo. And when I originally wrote the script, it was a little more crass and a little more crude, and as we started filming it, the heart came out of it that kind of surprised me. And this scene was never in the script. It was always just, thanks for the dildo. Like at the end of Werewolf of London, he goes, thanks for the bullet. So I thought, oh, thanks for the dildo. And Anton Troy and Sean just brought so much heart to this that we rewrote this scene, this death scene. And then after this was originally this whole musical number, and at Comic-Con it just became clear to all of us that we didn't need it. Classic horror movies always end as soon as the monster's dead. So we ended it for the final version here, and I think it actually works better.
I agree.
It's so much more poignant now. I mean, it feels like that kind of modern, not modern, but that tragedy that really elevates it.
Like the end of West Side Story or Rebel Without a Cause.
Well, the other thing, too, is the musical number that, if you ever see the festival version that takes place here, is all about acceptance and this and that.
Right.
But that's like your longer cut of this speaks to that more so than this one does. This is more of an homage to those classic
fits for
monsters.
that, but this fits in this, and that was why I was a teenage werebear.
And now we're back to the drive-in, which actually was a real working drive-in. It's the Vineland Drive-In in City of Industry, which you can go year-round, 365 days a year. It's one of the very, very few actual working drive-ins that is around today. It's all the drive-ins have been closed down over the last 20 years. A lot of this stuff that I had written for Ozoners that I put into here were all based on my experiences of going to the drive-in out in Long Island, including farting in the car and running out very embarrassed in front of a girl. So
they had drive-ins in Long Island?
That's a true thing that happened to you?
Yes, it is. Now, this shot right here was done by, we had a great Steadicam guy named Scotty who would do all these shots for us on a whim, and what I would do is I'd use my iPhone to kind of show him, get real close to the guy's ass, and then he would replicate it immediately. Now, the fine lady on the left is my wife, and the little gentleman who's attached to her breast is my son, who is actually breastfeeding.
He wasn't acting like he was breastfeeding.
No, he was actually breastfeeding, which I feel is another milestone for this film, actual breastfeeding in a film.
We have all kinds of stuff in this film.
And the gentleman who's basically playing me in the film is A.J. Bowen from many films like Hatchet 2 and House of the Devil and The Signal. I'd always loved his work, and he was very nice to come in and help us out with that. But the whole point of a lot of these interstitials going back and forth between the shorts is just to get to know a little bit of these characters, not really understanding that later on in the film they would become like components of the final short, which is Zombie Movie. So you get to know a little of these guys, you get to know who they are, what kind of people they are, that they're fans of movies. You know that Cecil's having problems, and that they all have a relationship. And then when the shit hits the fan, then there's a little bit of an investment involved with all of these characters. So this also was shot in an actual projection room at the Vineland Drive-In. So this is all real props except for the Orson Welles poster, who we actually had to beg the Orson Welles estate to allow us to use the picture of Orson Welles. And when I told them about the film, I'm like, it's a loving homage to Orson, and we're trying to recreate moments and love of Citizen Kane and the Magnificent Ambersons, and the guy's like, "Can I come to the premiere?" I'm like, "We'll talk about that." We will talk about that. But I mean, one of the things that I love about it is that we're not making fun of Orson Welles. We're not really making fun of any film in particular. Like everyone said, it is a celebration. And Orson Welles, to me, was one of the first filmmakers that I got to watch that was really believed in that idea of pure cinema. And that's what this whole film is.
And the magic of cinema.
And what's great too is that you have this character who's introducing all these films, including
The Diary of Anne Frankenstein. So there is a special feature that should be on your DVD and Blu-ray, which if you're hearing this commentary and stuff, it usually means you did actually buy it. So thank you for everybody who did do that. We really appreciate it. Now, one thing that's important to note about this is I did not come up with this name. This was one of the names that came with the pitch from Tim and Adam. And first, everyone was like, "In Green, you'll do that one." And we talk about this in the behind the scenes. So you might hear me during this commentary cutting these guys off if they come in. It's only going to be if I know a story was already told in the behind the scenes, because I know how some of you fans get really pissed if there's overlap. So I'm going to try really hard not to. But I was very scared of this title, and made the most of it, and we talk all about the sensitivity of it on the behind the scenes. So this was all shot in May of 2010 over 4 days at a place called Dirt Cheap Sound Stages in Santa Monica, California. Not
lived
far
up to
from
their title.
Not far from here.
That's
Laura Ortiz. So I thought it would be cool to have one of the Frank girls be Hispanic. And not Jewish. You'll see later on she says, "But I'm not even Jewish." She says that in Spanish. So it's we talk about this a lot in the behind the scenes, but everybody in this is German speaking, authentic German people. And then of course we have our lead, Hitler, played by my good friend Joel David Moore, who's almost like my muse. I try to use him whenever I can. And Joel does not know how to speak German, and he's making it up as he goes, and it just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. This was an homage to Star Wars, actually. In fact, at one point we had toyed with like lasers, like taking that down, like when Darth Vader first boards the rebel ship in the original Star Wars. Two of the secret weapons for this were actually Matthew and Florian, the two Nazi soldiers, who originally on the page were sort of just there on the side of Hitler, and those guys really, really just brought so much comedy to this. Really hard to shoot this when half your actors are speaking German, and then you got your lead who does not know what they're saying, and they don't know what he's saying. So that was a little awkward on set. So we would always sort of run it in English first. Yeah, let's see. I think, Adam, you stopped by set once. Tim, you were there almost every day. Joe, you had to stop by once. This was the first one to shoot in Chillerama, and
kind of set the tone for the whole movie. Kind of changed it too. I think it became a lot more comedic and playful after we all saw yours.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was all about pure, innocent comedy, really, for the most part. I mean, like Mel Brooks was a huge influence. I mean, he has been a huge influence in my life and my writing and everything. So it wasn't so much about gross out jokes like the rest of it, and it was really just pure comedy. We shot it like a play, like an old movie, how they would shoot it. And I mean, just the actors, I mean, just everybody just really, really got it in their face.
Ortiz.
And this was shot entirely in one location on a soundstage.
Yes, just like an old movie was. It's one set, which we reveal at the end of the movie when Meshuggah walks through all of the sets, which was sort of planned from the get-go. And, this really reinvigorated me as a director. That's Corey Neal, the producer, because I was coming right off of Hatchet 2 when I directed this. Hatchet 2 had wrapped in March, I believe. No, February or March that we had wrapped. And then just a few weeks later, I was on set doing this one. Yeah, right. I'm not even Jewish. And Hatchet 2 was not a fun experience. I talked about that on that commentary for anybody who's heard it. But I mean, just everybody was sick. It was brutal. It was hard. It was not really fun. And I was very disenchanted and just beaten down. And so to go back
this is like the best joke in this movie for me.
Oh yeah, and this is one of the only really risky jokes in this. I really battled with this one. Do I do it? Do I not do it? But it always seems to get a big laugh. So
You've now
glad I did it.
changed the perception of this book forever
Yes.
for children around the world who are going to read this, who are going to be thinking
And
that
I
this
hope
is
they
Nazi
do.
money.
I hope kids still read. I wonder how many of our fans will know.
And the nervousness was ultimately unwarranted because you did get the Simon Wiesenthal's endorsement of this
Yes.
film. So
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And the Holocaust Museum actually bought a print.
I don't know about that, but to go back to my comedy roots, which for those who have followed my career, I started as a comedian. I was a stand-up comedian. That's what I used to do, and then my first big hit was sort of Hatchet, and now I'm the horror guy. But it's great to get to go back and do straight comedy like this, especially short form. I've made almost, I think, about 60 short films at this point. I make them every year just for fun. I'm actually shooting this year's Halloween short on Friday. I just don't stop. I'm like a machine. But yeah, I was very scared the first time we ever showed this to a crowd, which was a year ago this week at Fright Fest in London. And we announced the movie. It was like a soft announcement of it because we were all gonna need extras and things, but we were trying to keep it really, really quiet for a number of reasons. And so all we did is say, this is what we're doing. These are the 4 people involved. We were kind of vague about it, but then we showed this just so people could get a taste. And I was really scared. I'm like, I don't know if people are going to be offended. I don't know what, but they laughed a lot, especially because, us Americans, most of us only speak one language. But there in London, there are a lot of people in that audience who spoke German who right away got that Joel didn't know what he was doing. Some Americans, it takes them kind of a while, and then they're like, that guy doesn't know how to speak German.
Which is great on repeated viewings. You hear so many things that Joel said that you never heard the first time, which I love.
Yeah, Christina Klebe, who plays Eva Braun, she and her mom translated the script, and she was so pivotal to all of this. I cast her in this before I ever really even knew we were going to make it. I don't even think we had all our financing in place, and I'd already met with her to talk about that. Our clapper joke, always got to have one of those. And there's Tim as the grave digger. But it was originally going to be Joe and I
That's
as
right.
grave
You were
diggers.
supposed to, yeah.
But
Why didn't that happen?
We don't look like we could be part of the Aryan race. You know what I mean? You're blonde. You look like somebody like Hitler would employ. So
thank you.
But it was great. And but even that costume, we just found that on set and stuck you into it and it barely fit.
I was so intimidated by Joel. He is so committed. Actually, in this scene, he was looking at me so much in the eyes that it was so real. He's so intense.
You'll notice, obviously, we shot this on the red. We had dialed it in to be black and white on set so that we were looking at what it was really going to look like. But lit post, you'll notice Christina's close-ups. It's all very sort of blurred and stuff, just like the way they did it back in the day where the main actress, it was always a soft filter on her. The film grain, the hairs in the gates, we really, really pushed it to look like one of those things. And I also want to point out Andy Garfield, the sound designer and the composer for this, making it sound like a Marx Brothers movie or like a Three Stooges thing, where you can hear the optical track going through it. There is a good example of the soft filter that we did. And that's A.J. Bowen's head on the table.
AJ, who plays me in the film, he's still got the mustache, which is nice.
So funny.
He was, that was the head that we made for Hatchet 2. Now in Hatchet 2, you never saw that head. It just gets lopped off really fast. So we never really made it detailed, and we thought it would be funny to put it in here. There's also a Miley Cyrus watch on somebody, one of the arms there. That puppy puzzle was the bane of our art director's existence because he had to build that puzzle. It's I haven't done a puzzle in forever. And then we had to try to keep it intact so it wouldn't leave. You'll notice behind Joel is Hitler's laser there. It's supposed to look like a big dick and balls. And originally, there was a song that happened right here, which we ended up deciding to cut out for timing purposes because, there were so many songs in Werebears, and then this on its own with the song, it played great. And a lot of us found these with our shorts. On their own, they were very different, but when you put it all together, for timing, we cut the song. So we did a funny thing here where he starts, and then we kind of cut out of it pretty quick. But he does walk over to that laser and remove one of the balls because supposedly Hitler...
That is actually funny.
Hitler only had one testicle. So in every chance I can get as a Jewish person to make fun of Hitler, I will take that chance.
I was actually going to bring that up. You portray Hitler as sort of a bumbling fool.
Well, the funny thing is about that is obviously this guy is one of the worst people, if not the worst that
Kind of
ever lived.
likable in this.
But when you get to take the piss out of somebody like that and you get to make them a clown, it's empowering in a way. Meshuggah, there's a whole big thing on the behind the scenes about this makeup. I love this makeup job.
Love it.
Greg Smith and Robert Pendergraft's team did such a great job. And of course, that's my friend Kane Hodder, who
Jason.
I always try to involve in everything I do.
Victor.
I try to always give him different things to do too. I've given him sex scenes, crying scenes, love scenes, and in this one he had a dance number, which he was very committed to. The Popeye arms were very important to me because the Popeye arms really make this just so cartoonish that you just can't take it seriously at all. Coming up here, there's a story about that on the behind the scenes. I don't want to ruin it for you. Coming up here, Hitler's about to unveil the menorah that he's going to to bring Meshuggah to life with. Now, what we wanted to do here in the script, it just said ancient prayer. Joel's wife is an Israeli Jew, so she got on the phone with him and taught him in Hebrew how to say, "If you light these candles, the monster will kill you." So that's actually
great.
what
I
he's
didn't know
saying there. There's a
That
whole
makeup looks so perfect.
It's
Especially in close-up. That's so...
It's so
Wait,
amazing.
Joel is married to a Jewish girl?
Yes.
Is he Jewish?
no, he's not.
Is that legal?
Yes, it is. And the first people that I ever showed this to, I believe, was her family. I
Really?
believe.
Wow.
Or maybe it was Joel's. I don't know, but I was very uncomfortable, and thankfully it played well.
Nothing sacred in Chillerama.
I have
You
to
worry
say,
too much.
I think Will did a great job on every one of these segments, but I think his best work is this one because it looks so authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we like painstakingly trying to recreate shots. It was very hard to not go in for coverage when you normally would want to as a director, but these old movies, they didn't do that. So
It's
Will
also
Barrett,
tough because the monitor was color, if I remember.
No, it wasn't. It was.
Oh,
We had it in black and white. So Will Barrett has been my business partner in Aeroscope and my director of photography for 13 years now. We've shot over 60 things together, and Will was kind enough to shoot everybody's short for this, and no matter like how different they were, how different the styles were, and really did a great
and
job with
adapted
that.
just to everybody and everyone. Like, it was wonderful.
Gleefully embraced all the different styles,
Yeah.
too. That was great.
Travis Arwini did our wonderful set here for next to nothing. First day that we came there and saw those Nazi flags, it was very eerie and scary. But I mean, just Hitler's lab is hilarious. The flickering lights. Zach Wilcox, my gaffer, took care of all that stuff. There's a great story about our sound guy, Vic, getting shot. That's on the behind
Oh my
the scenes.
God, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to get back to Lit Post again, the look they did on this, they even added, hairs in the gate and purposely
Well,
put
there was
them.
hairs in her mouth and hairs in the gate.
Yes, hairs in her mouth, hairs in the gate, hairs on Joel's face while he's speaking.
Isn't there one actual hair that's a spiral?
There's a spiral hair
Very,
that's
very nice
right
little
over
in-joke.
right over Joel's face.
In a homage to Spiral.
This was another, I do so many things in my movies that are always
Oh,
like.
can I just? Where'd you get the name Meshuggah? I always wanted-
Meshuggah is a Yiddish phrase. It's kind of used for like idiot. Like
Okay.
that's what like my grandmother would always call me. Oh, you Meshuggah. I grew up in a very brutal home. So what was I just saying? Travis, the makeup, the
guy
something,
getting
the guy
shot.
gets shot. I don't know. Somebody got shot. It'll be on the behind the scenes thing that we made. So this scene here was probably the funniest moment on set because I told Joel, I'm like, look, we're just gonna roll on you, and I'm gonna keep feeding you words to yell. So just repeat after me as Hitler, and I just started going with Star Wars references like Boba Fett and Bib Fortuna, Goldie Hawn, Scott Barnes, which all the way back to Hatchet 1, there was Scott Barnes called me. Scott Barnes is one of my childhood friends. I always try to work his name in and drop it somewhere.
Where's that filter again?
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. I always try to. I have like the Newbury Comics logo. Usually, there's certain things, just like what Adam was talking about with his Blump stuff, that he does in every movie. But I couldn't really do that here because of the time period. It just wouldn't have made sense to really reference any of my other stuff. But I did get the Newbury Comics logo in at the end of the movie. I'm wearing it. But yeah, when Joel was yelling these things, and we're all trying so hard not to laugh. Poor Joel's voice, what he did to it, just screaming like this for 4 days. I mean, he was so committed to it.
Has he seen
funny.
this?
Yeah, how did Hitler
yeah.
do that? I mean, Hitler screamed so much, but he never lost his voice.
Yeah,
He lost his testicle.
he was also
Yeah.
the devil, so that might have something to do with it.
But he was funny, you got to
Did
admit.
Joel
Yes.
see this?
Yeah, of course Joel's seen it. So originally here, it did not end on the gefilte fish. Originally, it ended on a Jackie Mason record, which, for anybody who knows, Jackie Mason is a very famous Jewish comedian. Most Jewish people adore Jackie Mason, and that was going to be the thing that made Meshuggah realize, wait a minute, I'm Jewish. It wasn't going to be the law firm outside. It was supposed to be the Jackie Mason record. But when we called, we could not afford it. So we had to cut Jackie Mason from the movie. His loss.
His loss.
His loss.
What's he doing these days?
So this great scene where Meshuggah tears off his swastika and destroys everything that's important to Hitler, starting with his puppies, and kills everybody. Now, the blood that we used here is actually chocolate syrup. So,
Just like the old movies.
just like the old
Night of the
movies.
Living Dead.
Which was very fun because for once you liked it. You liked the smell in the air. Everything smelled like chocolate and sugar on the set, which was really fun. Yeah, that's
Do you remember
fun.
how much Kane was sweating in that poor guy? In
I
that
can just imagine.
He was pretty hot, but I mean, because of Kane's burn injuries, like he doesn't have sweat glands on a lot of his body, which is also problematic for him. This was hilarious with the dummy and stuff, and our stunt performer who came in and did this one hit. He had been working all night on Disney's, I think, World of Color, their new exhibit. What the fuck?
That was great.
So many people miss that joke in theaters because they're laughing just at the fact that, it's a black stunt double. But yeah. Death by Menorah. This was one of the first things I sort of started thinking when I was conceiving, how am I going to do this? And I love the idea of a Jewish person being brought to life and then turning on them and killing all the Nazis. We did have a take that looked more realistic than that. And we didn't use it because I liked the fake one where you could see the foam inside. Now, obviously, these are the same two actors, Matthew and Florian, but now they have mustaches.
They always did that. They always recycled the,
Yes. We wanted to look, low budget and stuff. Now, if you'll notice, if you look closely, their mustaches, one of them is upside down and that one is coming off.
I like the reverse shot with the string. I think
And you
that's
know
very
you're
fun.
going to get some fans. That
Very
was
Three
really, do you
Stooges.
know that the mustache looked fake?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, really?
It's supposed to look fake. And it was hard to do because the mustaches are coming off. And so when they would move too much, the mustaches would come off. So it was kind of hard. Him getting stepped on, I thought I had a story about that. Oh yeah, that's right. The story was that I think Matthew actually got hurt. Kane has a tendency to hurt people. Like, he really goes for it. Yeah, so now this choking thing,
I love this.
the direction that I gave Florian, the actor who's choking, was you thought you were going to have a bigger part in this, and you were pissed off to get to set and find out that you're going to die like this. So you're going to milk this for all it's worth, much to the dismay of the other actors who are trying to continue with the scene.
Yours breaks the fourth wall. The third,
Literally walks around the
literally
fourth
walks
wall.
around,
Literally
the fourth
walks
wall,
around
which
it.
I love about it.
Yeah, but the fact that he just keeps milking this moment and milking this moment, which I've backpedaled on a bunch of times because I've seen it so many times working on it where I'm like, I don't know, is it too obnoxious? Is it too obnoxious? And then I'm like, wait a minute, we're in a movie with a giant sperm and leather daddy werebears, and nothing's too obnoxious for Chillerama.
It was originally an hour. He actually went on for about an hour.
Yeah, it was something like that, yeah. This was a great effect, again, made by Robert Pendergraft, with crushing Eva Braun's head. I also want to give props to Heather Allison, our costumer.
Oh, yes.
She did a
Yes.
fantastic job
She
with
did
these
a great
costumes.
job with everybody.
Especially Christina. I just think Christina looks so gorgeous in this.
Those leather gloves.
The leather gloves, the hat, great 99 left balloons. So obviously that's a nod to the song.
This is just genius, this part right here.
And also to Cheyenne Swisher, who did our makeup. She did a fantastic job capturing that 40s look for everybody. I always hate that I'm going to forget somebody here. This was hard to do because we
so
didn't have a
brilliant.
dolly, and the floor was not even, so we just did the best we could.
It works perfectly.
Right there, Joel just said Hasselhoff for Let's Go, Bitch. And this was something written in the script saying how it was not going to cut. We were going to reveal the whole set. They were going to go through the wall back to the Frank attic where we started, just so the audience could now see how small this area was where we shot the whole movie. This struggle was really funny watching these guys. I mean, they faced off in Hatchet. Kane threw up in Joel's mouth. Kane ripped his arm off in Hatchet. Now he gets to rip his arm off again here, which was
beat him with his own.
Kane has always wanted to rip off somebody's arm and beat them with it, so I made that happen for him. We mentioned this in the behind the scenes, but this is my favorite thing that we did with Joel. What he's actually saying there in German is, I am such a shitty actor. And then he dies.
Which, when we go to Germany in a week, I'm sure the whole place
That's gonna
will
be
flip
that's
out.
gonna be that'll be fun to see how this plays in Germany.
And let it be
And didn't
known.
you have to show him how to do this dance? I remember you dancing.
I did, and that's on the behind the scenes. You get to see me teach Kane Hodder dance, which is fantastic.
One of the best parts of the whole Comic-Con experience when we showed it was the entire crowd started clapping.
Yeah, they were-
yeah,
in
everybody started
unison, like
clapping.
singing
It was
along.
amazing.
That was great.
And that's the Diary of Anne Frankenstein.
Yay!
This guy right here is Ed Ackerman, who I was a big fan of in both Frozen and if you are a fan of the Capital One commercials, he's one of the Vikings.
Yep.
So what I liked is I wanted to have as many of those characters that you see in the beginning kind of come back at the end. And now we're into our famous blowjob scene, or hopefully soon to be famous blowjob scene.
This was one of the first things that you had thought of. I remember when we first started talking about the
exactly.
maggots.
This was the first scene in The Ozoners where a guy's getting blown, and when the girl he gets infected somehow by something, and when she comes up, she's got maggots in her mouth. The guy came maggots, and I thought that was a little tame for Chillerama. Didn't feel like that
No,
was
it's too tame.
in the spirit of what we were trying to go for here. So I kind of reworked this whole scene. These guys were Ward Roberts, who had acted in a lot of stuff, and obviously Olivia's great. But this was one of the first kind of set pieces I came up with, and again, working on this kind of idea that I was paying homage to like more of the 80s movies. I thought, one of the things that all of us know from loving the films from the 80s, the slasher films, the Evil Dead films, Reanimator and all that, is that you're always one-upping each other when it comes to kills.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, well, how could I be able to get really introduce the whole zombie transformation scene, which employs a somewhat unique look in using the day glow, idea, which meant a lot of hassles with black lights on set. But also do something that I've never seen before in a scene like this. So I thought, well, what happens if she, he twisted her head and it went to the screen and then came back? It was a happy accident that we
juicy
found
wieners.
that interstitial moment where it said hot, juicy wieners and popped it in, and it was just absolutely perfect. And, what's better than a skull fucking scene? There's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with a little ocular cavity intercourse.
My mom is going to love this.
My mom actually loves this movie, so she's very proud of it.
she
But
should
again,
be.
like a lot of this is just setting up this whole idea that the popcorn is infected and that we're constantly going back to all these different characters that hopefully people start enjoying to see and
Did that stuff really glow like that on the set, or is that an effect?
No, that was something that Rob Pendergraft had
How did you do that? Because I wasn't.
Black
I
light.
unfortunately wasn't there. That
Yeah, it was all black light.
Oh,
And we would
really?
have a variety of different, basically light panels, like Kino flows that had the actual black light tubes in them. But we also had flashlights, and we would just basically
Wow.
be right off camera, spiking them just so that it would glow a
What
little
is it
bit.
made out of?
Demon semen.
It's true demon semen.
Yes.
We should sell that like slime. I'd buy that.
Absolutely.
Fuck that.
Now, there's a deleted scene that you'll see in the special features that we cut out for time between Toby, who's making his decision to talk to Maina, the girl that he's been pining for the whole film. But we just felt for timing purposes, we need to kind of move things along. So
That was the hardest thing for all of
Oh
us
my
in this.
God.
Everybody kind of went off and made their own things. Now, we were all involved with each other from the script, being on set, watching, helping. But then when we first put it all together, the movie was about 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And we were all like, okay, this is too long. And it was so hard to then step
hard.
back and try to make them shorter. But
But really, it was just about like, let's get to the nitty gritty. And I mean, look, all the horror fans want, is story and plot,
no,
and
they
character.
don't. They don't want story and plot.
They want blood and gore and demon semen.
Every
So-
time I do
It's an
story
A.
and plot, I get skewered for it. It's like, why the fuck is there story and plot? I'm like, sorry.
Like what Adam said before, like I was the one who had to kind of do all the bridging stuff. So I had about 44 minutes of stuff to kind of cover, where everybody else had about 22 to 26 or something like that. So and I had to kind of do a lot with a little time. So we had literally 4 units shooting on the drive-in at the same time at some point.
That's a miniature door
Yes,
made
that
by
is
Brett
a
Snodgrass.
scale. Brett
Still
actually
in my
came in and
office.
helped us out. I don't know who this gentleman is at all, but he was
It's
a
Dan Aykroyd,
fantastic
isn't it?
actor on set.
This was shot in my edit suite.
Yes. Defecation came about from my pining away at trying to find the best way to do as much scatological humor as possible in the shortest amount of time. The name Fernando Fagabeefy actually comes from 2 things. One, the film Midnight Madness that came out in the 80s. It was one of those like up all night, let's do a scavenger hunt kind of films where a gentleman's in the back of a van and he's playing Scrabble and he goes, Fagabeefy became a family thing in my, like, we've always just kind of used that word forever. And when I was cutting porn in the Valley, when I first moved out here, they were like, well, you're going to put your name on, for all the, great job that you did on ATM Machine 2 and In Your Mouth and On Your Face. So I went, you know what, I need a pseudonym.
Wait, you cut In Your Mouth and On Your Face?
I knew that you would know
That's
that
a
one.
great movie.
That is that transcends porn.
It's great.
I really tried.
Adam Rifkin, there's just something
You're an
so seedy
aficionado.
about this guy, because anytime you're like, oh well, we need nudity or anything, I've got some girls, I've got some.
I
I know
had an
people.
associate producer on my set. He showed up one day because he knew she used to be known as Catalina Cumalot. He's the only one who knew that. I didn't
Horror
know
and porn,
that.
they go hand in hand.
But this is very William Castle-esque, right?
For example, absolutely. This was my homage to both William Castle and John Waters, with the whole
Sunny
look.
Lane.
And Sunny Lane,
Because those
another
guys-
friend of Adam Rifkin.
They
I must say.
actually, back in the day, the filmmakers were showmen like what we're hoping to be.
That was one of the things that I always loved from those movies was the gimmick, and this was one of those films like The Tingler, where William Castle would come out and say like, well, we're going to scare you now, be very careful. Or this was actually, the end of this film, this little section here is
talk
an
about the out of
homage to.
sync?
Or they give you an insurance policy in case you die.
Exactly, yes. When we were at Comic-Con, we had some technical issues, and this section right here went horribly out of sync. Got one of the biggest laughs of the whole screening. So, due to that happy accident, we
kept
decided, why don't we leave it as out of sync? And they
How'd your
it
wife
worked.
feel about you being in this scene?
Oh, she's used to it. She's used to it. She's
Do you
usually.
mean the outfit, the ascot? Yeah, she's used to it.
Oh, you mean with Sunny Lane?
Yeah.
Oh, no, she was fine with that too. She was
Sunny is
totally
a
fine.
great girl. She was so professional. She was so fun to work
And that
with.
mustache is real, goddammit. I walked on set and
I
half
gotta
the
be
set
honest.
left.
The first time we saw this, it took me about 40 seconds to realize that was you. Honestly, I'm not kidding you.
I'm the Lon Chaney of really bad mustaches.
That's the Hatchet from the Hatchet films on the desk.
we
there.
literally
awesome.
got covered
Brett,
in shit.
Brett came in at the very last moment to help us out with this, and we pillaged the entire Ariscope office to try to find as many things as possible
That's
that we could put
great.
into
Is
set.
that wrapping paper behind you?
Yes.
That's wrapping paper.
And this actually was a huge guacamole gun that splatters me right in the face. I'm very proud of that moment.
And I got to direct that moment. I was very happy with
Yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the shit in defecation is actual human feces, right?
It actually is.
God, we
yes.
had to go all the way,
R.A.
you know.
R.A.
Yep, it's R.A. Millihoff who also came in as a favor for us.
Okay, here we go. These are.
Very, very short bursts, if
This
you
is
will.
this is very subtle,
Foy,
sophisticated humor.
Dave Foy from Hatchet 2 and some of our Fright Fest shorts. That's one of our PAs, Andrew, who came in and was at the last
I
second
thought that was
told,
Bette Midler.
No, yeah. He was told at the last second that moment that he would be
Is that
actually.
Jason's dog again?
No, that's actually Sean Ashmore's dog.
Yeah, it's Sean
okay.
Ashmore from
All right.
Frozen.
Bear McCreary, our composer, is right here doing some art. Now, if you look very closely, all of that shit is actual feces. That I wanted
And there's
to make
Jason
sure that
Miller,
we got
who
that
we've
in
been
there.
talking about throughout this whole movie, our second unit guide, CGI
Yes.
guide, and that's actually made out of shit, right?
Oh, of course, all the shit is real, my friend.
Awesome.
But we also wanted to make sure that we got out of there very quickly. This was about a third longer when we showed it at Comic-Con, and we all
And
decided
I just
it's
love
time
the
to get
whole
out of there.
fake out detour that you think you're seeing a fourth
Exactly.
film.
Well, if you look closely at the marquee, it does not say zombie movie in the,
Oh, that's right.
in the
It says
opening.
defecation.
It says defecation.
That's right.
So the
That's
idea
right.
was the little ruse we wanted to kind of give away was that once you think it's one short, it actually turns into another. So so that's where the transition happened. That's actually Paul Sollett from Grace fame.
I love that.
And here's
That's
our
my
little Evil
favorite
Dead
shit.
homage.
Jack Chop. Fucking.
This was actually, now, one of the things that was the biggest challenge for the whole zombie shoot was we originally were going to shoot in May of 2010, but right at the last second, I got a call saying, you need to shoot Knights of Badassdom. So all the work that we had put into getting the cast, getting the crew,
Oh, that's right. I
was
remember
dropped
that.
completely.
I remember that.
So when I came back from Knights of Badassdom in the middle of, actually right when I finished the cutting of Knights of Badassdom, we reassembled, got the band back together, and we had to do a marathon run through literally 50 pages of dialogue and action and all that. So working with practical locations was, both a hindrance, but also a huge benefit because we just got to move very quickly, get all the actors in there, and basically block it, get it shot. Will was a master at getting at least 2, if not 3 cameras in a very small space, and it was great. I mean, we actually bumped a real projector, and I hope it's not fucked up for life now.
Don't worry about it. Things are digital now.
Exactly.
So.
But getting all these actors in there and doing a lot of complex action was a lot of fun, but it was also a big challenge because, you know, we were dealing with guns and we were dealing with blood. Some of the shots that are coming up here are actually green screen that we did in the Aerioscope office, like right there. And of course, I had to spooge blood all over Rosebud. That was just a requisite. But the shot here, boom.
That's awesome.
If you listen very closely, all of the gunshots from, and I had to throw in a Monster Squad quote there. If you listen very closely, pretty much every other line that everyone says in this is a line from another movie. Dick, you're fired from RoboCop.
Did the actors know the references? Did you have to explain
absolutely.
to the actors?
Some of them, some of the quotes I had to kind of just like Wolfman's got nards. Corey, who plays Toby, didn't know that one. So
okay.
So I had to be schooled a little bit, which was fun because we got to watch a lot of movies.
Here comes Will Barrett's cameo.
Yes.
Will Barrett, our DP, coming up.
So
there it is.
Love that. Where's yours at?
With a scream. It's coming up very, very close.
There's me.
That's
no,
you?
No, that's not me. That's not me. Where I know I'm. There's me. That's
there's
me in
you.
between that girl's legs.
Where's Uncle Creepy from Steve
just
Bartle
went
from Dread
by.
Central?
Actually,
Okay.
Steve, we wanted to make sure that
That's
there
me.
he is.
There I
That's
am.
you?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
We wanted to make sure that Steve looked almost exactly like the zombie in Survival of the Dead. So I think he's being billed as Romero
And these are
zombie.
just a lot. These are fans who we just put the word out on
Now
Facebook.
you will never listen to the Wilhelm scream the same way
Or
again.
look at
after
Dave
that.
Parker, and that was a real dick.
Yep.
Real dick right there, and Dave Parker getting really
And Mike
shoved.
Mendez,
that is
Mike Mendez.
director of Grave Dancers.
Who is not a zombie.
No, he's just fucking corpses. I
Yes.
mean, why not?
But that, two of the major influences for this film were a lot of Joe Dante, like Matinee and Gremlins.
Absolutely.
And also Dead Alive. I loved the kind of the reckless abandon that Peter Jackson's
Demons.
early
It has
works
a
did.
a demon.
Oh, absolutely. Demons. You can even go so far back as the old film Targets.
Yeah.
The
Last
whole
Picture Show even.
Exactly. There's
It definitely has a Targets vibe about
Absolute
Yeah.
targets.
But there was this whole thing of I really wanted to kind of push the limits of what a zombie
Is that
movie
the Frozen
can do.
number?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yep, that's the one. That
Brian
is
Collins.
our
Brian
title.
Collins.
That's our title.
He did our
title
title
designer.
designer.
And here is a scene I'm very proud of, and I'm going to regret for the rest of my life. It is the scene where the marshals, played by AJ and my wife, they're a married couple who have, they're a married couple. They don't have sex as much any often, but thanks to zombies and thanks to the, to being infected by zombies, they get to really unleash their pure sexual desires.
Is that real, Joe?
That is not real, but that is me getting. That's my torso that she pulls the fake penis out.
How come your movie has more dick in it than the gay movie that I made?
Well, I had to kind of one up myself, or one up the whole project. And
You
yes,
made me cut Sean's ass off, and you have dick in your movie.
well, I also have a kid. Well, but I have my kid in it, so it kind of evens everything
that makes
out.
it family friendly.
That's the best part, though, that you did that in front of
Of
not
your
just
child.
a child, but your child.
Yes.
Like, that is fantastic.
So
And
either he's
also,
gonna
when
be
is
the
he going to be
coolest
allowed?
kid, or
And when is he going to be allowed to see this movie?
next month.
we should point out, though, that segment that you just saw was the only one where Image and that was the only time that we got a.
Yeah, that
If
was
there,
a little
if
bit
there
of a
was ever a
pushback.
line to be crossed, that was the one that they had, right?
Well, originally, in the original cut that we actually did show at Comic-Con, there was an ejaculating penis, and albeit it was squirting.
so
you're
this,
right over there?
this is now cut. And
yeah.
It's okay.
We
whatever,
unfortunately
know
we
that
had to do a slightly cut version of
Okay.
that penis. So Olivia actually came back for a reshoot, and we got a little bit of squirting, and we also had to get the quote-unquote money
We do
shot.
take a while to get to naked boobies in this movie, and thank God for you, Joe. There's a lot of them to make up for the
Yeah.
lack of boobies in the beginning of the movie.
It was so weird walking around that drive-in set. I think I actually did this part.
Yeah,
here.
this was one of the units where I was out. I was actually upstairs in the projection room. Jason and John Knotts,
That's
who
great.
actually who directed Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer. We had about 4 directors running around, just knocking out pages. Adam had done this scene, which I'm sure he really enjoyed.
You did this screen?
Yeah, I did this scene. But it was great because what Joe would do is he'd come down and he'd be like, all right, these are the shots. This is what I want. This is how it's going to go. Boom, he's on to the next set. And everybody's just trying to help each other out and get it done.
Now, what better way than to have a great hero cue for your character moment than have your composer be your brother? Always helps.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Brendan had never acted before, but I thought he did a fantastic
He has
job.
sort of a George Clooney look to him.
He's got a lot of looks. Everyone says
He's
he
never
looks like
acted
someone
before.
different.
He was
Never
very
act- this
natural.
is-
Do you have
this
his
is the first
number?
time. Absolutely.
One of the hardest things about shooting this is because of the budget, we would kind of put it out there, fans, friends, come on down and be in this. But by about 1, 2 in the morning, you start losing people. They're like, oh, I got to work, I got to leave.
And then they start twittering the makeup scenes on Facebook.
Or they would actually
that.
steal the costumes. We had a lot of the zombies. When you look later in the film, when we have more of our zombies in the background, Rob Pendergraft came up with a brilliant idea. Now, this was done merely by just turning up the black light, just to kind of give that effect of it that she's transforming.
That's awesome.
But a lot of the guys who were, came in as background actors who would just throw on a mask, they left with the masks. So they all have free Chillerama memorabilia. Yes. You owe us those masks.
you guys are assholes. I wasn't talking about them.
Oh, thanks. What? Was we supposed to run after them? I had
Yeah.
shit to shoot.
But my point was that when they would
eBay.
leave, it was really hard to get some of the shots because you've got 4 people there left, and you have to try to make it look like a full drive-in, and we just keep recycling the same zombies in different T-shirts and different makeups.
That's what
and
makes it
just
fun.
Whatever we could do.
And you never know.
Yeah, and one of the things that would, at the end of the day, we would always say to ourselves, what would Roger Corman do? And he would be like, just shoot it, get it done, Doesn't matter.
He didn't care. He literally would have people shooting each other.
Yeah.
To reuse the same extras.
It was one of the
Exactly.
things that I even learned on, we're working with Trauma. It was like, get it by any means necessary.
I'm so happy that it ended up being Richard Riehle for this. Richard Riehle,
Me too.
I mean,
Smartest
not just because he was
choice
in
ever.
my first movie, but I mean, he is just what a wonderful human being. The fact that he's so game, so down for anything, never complains, always knows his lines. He's such a professional. He's just so.
Is that supposed to happen?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. That's the actual moment where,
They
when
realize they're
Toby
in the
says, we're in a movie,
Okay.
and that's
I
where
never
the film
thought-
changes
That's
over
what
from there.
one of the things that I loved because it retained from the very, very beginning of it was that the people watching the movie become the star of their own horror movie.
Well, that was one of the first ideas that you guys had when we first talked about this idea, was that the people that were in the drive-in would realize, holy shit, we're in the movie.
Yeah, we are the movie.
And that wasn't part of it at first, but then I'm like, well, this is a great moment where if they realize that they're in a movie, well then, the stakes are lowered in a way, but also they're raised for everyone else.
That's perfect.
And like like what Adam had said, Richard Riehle is one of the most consummate professional actors I've ever worked with. He came in and did that entire speech in the beginning of the film, which was cut down in almost half. It was 3.5 pages of dialogue, and he knew it take 1.
God bless.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, God bless these guys. There was a lot of actors we approached who actually passed because they were a little older and felt they wouldn't be able to memorize that.
It was a tough thing. Now, this idea of Orson Welles kind of hiding the guns was in there from the beginning. I just thought we needed to get this, but now in the practical location, we couldn't actually fit a whole gun rack in the back. So this is actually done on green screen. That was done outside the drive-in where we just constructed.
Wait,
Travis made the whole thing.
Something you didn't do at Aeroscope?
No.
but I shot it.
Now, the flickering effect was done, there was just something that was missing from this scene. There was a little bit of tension, so we added the flicker through lit
works.
post and everything. It worked with the sound effects and everything. And just having a lot of extras who were there on their own time and their own, their own accord, just kind of hanging out in the background, being dead bodies was great. Originally, the scene was a lot bigger, but again, when you're dealing with something where you're trying to pull 10 pages a day, and you go, well, how many zombies do we have today? 4. Okay, we're gonna make that work. And this is, we basically boiled it down to the very nitty gritty, and which was basically get the keys for the car out of
I
her,
love that.
and then they're off to the races here.
I love that flicker effect.
Yeah,
It's great.
It works. It adds a little bit of tension. This was in, from the beginning.
That's such a trailer moment. I could see almost the trailer starting with that.
Yeah.
It kicks ass.
And of course, I needed boobies. So
Always.
there's Collins getting hit by the thing. Now, originally this scene was going to be set to Charlie Brown. And when we realized that Charlie Brown would cost a lot of money to use, we decided, Bear came in and said, look, I've always wanted to make my Gremlins. I always wanted to do a Jerry Goldsmith or an Alan Silvestri kind of score, and it worked so much better. A lot of these gunshots are actually post, and they work brilliantly. This
Can
one
you
in
talk about
particular.
Manicam in general, the
Yes,
shot that we're looking at?
this was another shot I wanted to kind of do from the beginning, where we attach the camera to the actor and just basically show it where you see it. So it's not a lot of cuts. It was not only practical because we got to do a lot of coverage in one shot, but it was just something different.
Well, it's
something
cool.
a little
That's
more.
what I like about it. It's very Raimi, Jackson-esque,
That's it. It was-
and that's what defines your episode.
That was, I had, Peter and Sam were kind of hovering over the set the whole time, probably trying to make sure that I wouldn't steal any of their shit.
I love that. I love how they hug each other and shoot. That's awesome.
But
Again, this is a very sweet relationship. As gross as this episode sometimes can be, the heart of their relationship is actually pretty sweet.
That was so important. I mean, I think there's an inherent sweetness to all of the films, and I think that's what keeps it from being completely nihilistic. Is that young lovers get to be together finally, and then this was the first line I wrote in the whole thing. Now, hearing Richard really saying that on set
what
was one of the
like
most
finally
brilliant.
hearing that? Because that was like the first thing you brought to
It
us.
was
Like,
amazing. It was like, and he got it. Like,
and he's really run it. I mean, he was game.
he did everything. And I always thought, like, I've never seen it in a movie because we all live in a world where we quote movies. So I was like, if you were, a guy who owns a movie theater and you were put in this position, you were suddenly thrust into. He actually fell right there. You were actually thrust into the situation. Wouldn't you want to kind of like bolster up your heroism by quoting all your favorite movie lines? And Richard completely ran with that. He loved it. So.
You don't realize how much we are influenced by movies. I mean, so much of the things we say, the catchphrases, are all from our favorite movies.
Yeah, they're all from our favorite films. Richard actually enjoyed, I think he said his favorite line out of all of these was actually quoting Dirty Dancing, saying, don't put baby in a corner.
That's what I love.
Right there.
And again, it's not all horror movies. That's what I like about it. It's Die Hard, it's Citizen Kane, Goonies. It's just movies.
And like once we got all this footage back, we were like, wow, we don't have enough dick in this. So a lot of those dick shots on the shotgun
Tim says
shots.
that all the time.
One thing I must admit I do miss that you cut was when, as he's shooting this guy, he says, and fuck VOD and fuck,
I know.
I love that. I love that. This
felt like we
part
had to-
here, right?
No, that was actually in his original Onslaught.
Yeah.
Yeah, have to get a little Scarface in there.
Of course.
And now this moment right here coming up, this was one I was never sure was going to work, but Jason Miller, who did obviously
That's
producer
brilliant.
and also did the VFX.
This is like choke on it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was
Day of the
Dead. But Jason said, "Don't worry, I got the explosion. It'll look great." And that was the first time I had seen it was at Comic-Con during the screening. I was like, "Oh, thank God."
I want to thank all of the women who came and got naked for us for this. And
Yes.
there's
Actually,
boob,
three girls.
but
actually.
still, but they were
We just
awesome
kept
about it.
recycling them.
Thank you for all 6 of your breasts.
But for having the sense of humor, for all of the fans who came down and did this for us, who acted as zombies, and
were all fans.
Or even came to the beach on mine. Those are all free extras.
Yep.
Some came from like out of state on their own dime, brought their own costumes. This was like the movie for the fans by the fans.
Exactly.
you hear
that's
that
what
all the time,
Chillerama
but
is.
there's actually fans in it, so maybe we really mean that. It's like it's so great how many people just donated their time and their talents
both
just
in
to
front
come
of the
and have
camera,
fun.
behind the camera. Everybody came together. Like Lit Post, like I had said from the beginning, like there's got to be a moment where this film looks like an '80s film. So showing them Invasion USA and a lot of Cannon films and Reanimator and even
definitely Invasion USA.
and Evil Dead 2, they immediately got the idea of like, this is where the color scheme needs to go to. So again, it gives it all a very different and unique look.
And what I love about this scene is so often you always wonder watching those horror movies, how come in the midst of the mayhem they stop and have sex? And you address that and make that a plot point, which
it
I
was
love.
one of those things where it's like, well, like Night of the Living Dead, which has one of the most downbeat endings of any horror film at all. What do you do in a situation like this? And having the kind of sexual tension be set up from the beginning, which if I didn't have the luxury of having all of those little interstitials in between, you'd never really get that dynamic that the kids have to each other. Now it pays off, so it pays off and the audience feels hopefully the audience feels like, well, we got to know these characters and this moment's justified.
And if you're going to die, what a way to go.
Might as well go out with a bang.
So to speak.
Yeah.
So to speak. I'd like to give props to Ed Marks, who edited Adam Rifkin's and my own. And I'm sure you guys want to thank Matt.
Oh,
and
We
Gavin
got a
as well.
12-minute credit sequence coming up that we can talk through.
I'm sure.
That's true, but watching this, it's making me think about that first time where we sat and watched them all together. All the editors were there, we were all there, and that
It was
massive
nuts.
undertaking of what do we do, and how all of them rose to the occasion and really helped us get this thing.
Whose naked butt is that?
Yeah, that's...
That was
That's
a woman
me.
who was just happy to be there, and
And this,
my big
again,
direction
a
for
lot
that
of the
was
actors from all our different movies are in
everybody's
here.
in there.
And this is the New Beverly Theater.
Yeah,
What?
New Beverly
this
Cinema.
basically was made for the New Beverly because we had all grown up, or at least been out here and gone to all the
There's
midnight
Kane
shows.
Hodder.
There's my new Break comic shirt. Oh, and me. And Tim.
I'm wearing my Robert Englund t-shirt.
And I do like how Tim
There's
says
Ray
not
Wise.
enough tits. That's always nice.
I just have to say, looking at this footage right now, I'm just noticing I'm very good looking.
Well, I'm noticing that I'm the best actor out of the group, yet I'm in this the least, which
and
is
I have to
a
admit,
tragic
when we
flaw.
shot and there's Anton Troy, and there's Sean jumping on Anton's back, and there's my werebears, and there's Adam, you had just come from actually seeing E.T., and we're actually so misty-eyed.
E.T. is my favorite movie of all time. It was my 13th time seeing it in the theater this night.
Love it.
And then and I went right from E.T. to this set,
And you went from shooting your movie to this.
Yeah.
And I love that we ended at the New Beverly, because
At
the New
midnight,
Beverly
too.
is really, what the last of the grindhouses and the drive-ins.
Yep. It only felt right, and they embraced that too. They kind of got the whole tone of it, so it worked out perfectly.
I like these end credits because it's sort of like a curtain call for each film.
Well,
Yeah,
you
it
also
really
get
is.
the whole picture-in-picture thing, which actually started from the festival cut of yours, Tim.
Yeah.
When you had the thing on the side, and we were all like, well, why don't we all do something like that?
And this is a song playing called Chillerama. We just heard Demon Seaman, and now
yes,
we're
that
hearing...
was by Angus Kahn.
Yeah, and now we're hearing Chillerama by Psychocharger, and it's a really great song, and hopefully we'll do a video, but it's definitely going to be available on iTunes.
what is the website? Chillerama.com? Is that it?
www.chillerama.com.
And of course, we're all on Twitter. I'm at Adam_Effin_Green, and my website is www.aeriescope.com. You can see all the short films and all the other shit. Joe, you're on Twitter, right?
You can flame me at the Joe Lynch, at the Joe Lynch.
I am at Adam Rifkin. At Adam Rifkin.
I haven't gotten on Twitter yet, but I will. Yeah, this was there. There's a naked butt shot we got cut off. But this was this is a song by Brianna Nadeau, who's Gavin Heffernan's girlfriend, and Patrick Copeland. I want to really thank him for the amazing score and how he took the songs and added music to it. But we always thought that, again, John Landis is a huge influence. One of the movies we have to mention is Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yep.
Is a huge influence
yeah.
on this. I always loved at the end of John Landis's films, like Blues Brothers, how they'd have everybody singing, And so when we did the festival version, I came up with this idea, just kind of showing all the different actors, and it worked. And then we thought, well, let's use it in this and get a chance for each song, and it kind of works. And
Well, it would actually worked out great, because for the next segment, like one of the hardest things I know Adam had to go through was cutting down a scene that was, very well beloved, when it was in festivals and it was screened before. But then it was like, well, wait, there's a perfect spot for it that people can actually stick around for. Because who doesn't? Everybody on a crew and cast, they all want to see their names up there, but to keep an audience there is very difficult.
And this way, it's an entertaining way, and we get to say thanks to everyone. And I also just want to say that, Chillerama for us is not just a film, but it really is a concept. It's a celebration of movie-going as an event. We hope to do more of these. We hope that some of you out there watching this one day are filmmakers in some of these future ones. We hope that you don't download illegally and that you support this movie, because really the future of independent horror movies, I hate to sound like a commercial, but it's really contingent upon people supporting independent movies.
I love that.
Yeah.
She's so good.
So here's Hitler's song that was cut from the movie, and thankfully we were able to get it all here, and also on the behind the scenes. This was very hard for Joel to do on set, because he's, singing gibberish, but he's trying to keep the melody and keep it in tune and stuff. Now, what he's singing here, whenever the chorus, the song is called I Don't Need to Rule the World, but when he's singing I Don't Need to Rule the World, in German, he's actually singing I have worms in my penis. Ich habe Wormen in mein Schwanz.
And then didn't he have to ADR this and get it perfect?
He did. He had to ADR it when he was on set of another movie a few months later, and he totally nailed it and got it perfect. One of Joel and Kevin Zegers. Those are the two best actors I've ever seen in my life at ADR. Like how shockingly well they can match things. It's amazing.
Yeah, same with Richard Reilly. Amazing. One take Jake.
If you're out there and you're a filmmaker, if you can hire Richard Reilly, because
You want him.
You want him.
It's also available
And if you
for
can't get
private
Richard Reilly,
dances.
get Joel David Moore.
I'm so happy I got the chance to work on this, because I got to make a black and white movie like this. Everybody thinks about it, everybody talks about, oh, wouldn't it be great, wouldn't it be great? And I might never get the chance again, because try selling a studio, or even an independent studio on like a few $1 million movie in
Right.
black and white, because a lot of people, they just don't think an audience will watch it if it's in black and white, especially subtitled.
And especially, yes, we were going to do them chronological in terms, this was supposed to be the 30s, like James Whale, and this was actually going to be first, but there was some concern that people might think the whole movie was black and white if this was actually the first one up.
I can't wait to see the colorized version of Anne Frankenstein.
We did talk about
should.
that, and we're not, because we do have color files, but we're going to actually colorize this.
That's
so
what
it
you
looks
should.
like that.
Well, hopefully we'll have some special deluxe editions down the road with some of the festival versions and, you know, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Another way to rape all you guys out there of your money.
Exactly.
Oh, no, that's
Just
not
kidding,
it.
just kidding.
Now,
I can't wait for digital technology to be invented so that we can add lots of digital effects to our movies that didn't exist before and then never let the original versions be available.
Exactly. Make the zombie shoot first. Like that would
Or
be.
have all have walkie-talkies that they're squirting at everybody.
Hey,
That'd
hey,
be
hey,
great.
hey, 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 hey. Now, nobody loved E.T. because the cops had guns. I'm
It's
no,
always
seriously.
about E.T.
Fuck
again?
off.
It's
Really?
always E.T.
Everybody's
again.
going to start with the fucking walkie-talkies. Did you really give a fuck about the guns or the walkie-talkies when you saw E.T.? Was it about the relationship between a boy and a creature from... Sorry.
That sounds like my movie, A
Seriously.
Boy and a Creature.
Well, anyway, this since everybody else had little video interstitials, I
Right.
only had 44 seconds of Dave Foy shitting on a painting.
That would've been fun. That would've been fun.
Well, then my credits would have been 44 seconds and gone by very quickly.
Look
so,
at all those zombies.
Wait, you know what
Brendan McCreary, who's in the film, actually made this video. His brother directed it in 18 hours before it was due.
And
Well, I
so
did a
it's pretty
good
amazing.
job.
What's interesting about this is Brendan, who's singing, the girl behind him right there, Magda the blonde,
Yeah.
they had just met about 48 hours before at the first table read for Holliston, the
Oh,
TV
that's
show Joe and I
funny.
did. They both came and helped us out, and then didn't know each other before then, and then 48 hours later, they're in a video together, like not knowing that like that was going to happen.
Did they have sex?
Did they have sex?
Dude,
Did you film it?
I don't know.
Why is it always sex with you,
why is
Rifkin?
it Jesus?
Well, it's like with
I,
everybody, because we're not married. You guys are
and
married.
that's Bear's wife, right?
Yes, that's Bear's wife, Rhea, who's
And this is the
accomplished
longest
wonderful
credit
singer.
sequence in the history of film.
Yes.
It
I would
really
love
is.
to just real quick give props to Matt, my editor, who actually works at Brook Street, who is who did Jack Brooks' Monster Slayer.
The Shrine.
He was and the Shrine. He basically was thrown this at the very last minute. I mean, we had the most footage to cut, and
That's
we cut
right.
it in 3 weeks, all of ours, which was amazingly fast. So big props to Matt, who also did the sound design. So I got to give him some
Special
major
thanks,
props.
Mark Ward. Thank you for believing in us.
And Orson Welles. So
Orson
Mark Ward,
Welles.
you are above Orson Welles, sir. You gotta
Yeah,
remember
I hope
that.
you noticed that. Yeah, Mark Ward.
Well, WA comes before WE.
Mark
Hey, you
Ward
thanked
bought this
Riff
movie.
Coogan.
Oh, Riff Coogan.
Of course.
Oh, that's executive produced by
Oh, no,
Riff
Tom
Coogan.
Sullivan and Joe Lunch.
Oh, I see. Cool.
Yeah.
Joe Lunch.
I know that.
But Mark Ward
Well, it's
from
hard to
Image
believe
bought the
after
movie
12 years
before we had made it.
Here we are sitting at this. It's weird. It's the longest pregnancy in the history of filmmaking, baby.
But we made it through. We did it. This was not
still
easy.
alive.
We're still alive. We're still all friends, and we did it. And this was hard. Everybody out there is like, oh yeah, let's do a anthology thing. Yeah, get a helmet, man. It's not easy. It's hard, really hard. But we loved it, and we hope you loved it. And we hope that someday there's a Chillerama Volume 2, and we're gonna
3.
pick the titles for new directors to do, just like what happened to us. So in a way, we all got saddled with titles. Like, how the fuck do I do that? So I'm gonna start thinking about my title.
Yeah.
And hopefully we
I
get
already
to do
got
that.
mine.
What's that?
Can everyone have a gay one?
Curse
in
of the
it?
Cum Guzzlers.
Oh, I like that.
Peace.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Bye.
You know what? There's not enough
Bye-bye,
tits.
Remy.